Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for round 11 of the Misfits Racing League Endurance Series. My name is Stryfium, and we're here for Hungary. And joining me for all of the action, as always, Unicorn. How you doing?
Yes, Striff, very excited. Thank you. I'm doing well. It feels like a long time since we've been in the comics. We've obviously 2 weeks since our last go around at Silverstone, and well, that was really one of the first races, well, the first full race we've done in the new game. Obviously, the second round here, obviously, we did all of those 5 laps as well. So we have seen Hungary, 5 laps of it, but we'll see a lot more than that here with 70 laps around the 14-turn track. Obviously, qualified today, pretty exciting stuff to watch in real life. Hopefully, well, the race that we get today will be just as exciting as that, and as exciting as the race that we're going to see tomorrow. And we've got just about a full grid. We're just waiting on one person, I think. And when we got that, it'll be ready up. But yeah, a lot of exciting action to come in the next few hours, Jeff.
Most definitely. I'm very excited for this one. Especially after you said a very, very heated, intense qualifying today for the Real World Championship. And I'm very excited to see how that goes tomorrow. And of course, as always, we're here to really give our own little representation on the race weekend. And we'll be here for the full distance action with 20 drivers on the grid, 20 very fast drivers. I'm just getting a little bit of an insight into who's on the grid now. And I have to say, I think we're going to be here for quite a wild thriller, George. It's going to be a very, very fun time. Of course, Hungary, not known for really the most intense races with the overtakes, but of course we've seen these drivers take some of those circuits and some of those stereotypes and throw them completely out of the window, and I'm hoping that we'll see that again tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it's not the easiest circuit to overtake around, particularly once you get into that second sector, but there are places that if you set it up right, overtakes can come in thick and fast. You know, turn 1, then going back down into turn 2, you're only 2 DRS sections on the track. Great place to, you know, get an overtake. But if you mess up turn 2, then it can really open you up to turn 3. And obviously, there's a bit of a risky maneuver if you want to try it down into turn 4 as well. And obviously, sector 3, turn 12, I think, is sort of an recognized corner where we've seen time and time again those late on the brakes, brave enough to go not just down the inside, but the outside as well, can really find themselves a great move there. You know, go around the outside, get the inside into 13. You can swoop past in the last few corners of the lap. So definitely places to overtake. Sector 2, definitely the biggest challenge, I would say here. You know, you've got that chicane, the 6-7 chicane, the curbs there, I think in this game, even more tricky to navigate than they were in the last one. Turn 5 as well, obviously. That curb was already tricky in the previous iteration of the game. Now, in the new 2021 release, we'll just see how everyone managed it. I would not be surprised to see at least a couple of drivers become victim to a spin there. But we do have 20 drivers. We do have a lobby readied up. And we are loading in for 18 minutes of short qualifying here in Budapest at the Hungaroring.
The Hungaroring, it's a circuit, of course, not known for the overtakes, but it is known to be a circuit of, well, that the drivers enjoy. We heard Daniel Ricciardo talk about how it's one of his favorite circuits of the calendar, and he's known for overtaking here, especially going, well, last of the late breakers into turn 1. We've seen a variety of iconic moves from him over the years through here in Hungary, and we'll have to see what some of these drivers do here. I think some of these drivers may be trying to overtake in a different section of circuit. I mean, we've seen it before into the chicane of sector 2, and well, these drivers like to take risks, but it is a 70-lap exchange here around the Hungaroring, and we'll have to see how everyone does here in the qualifying and who is up to the pace to be at the front of the grid today. And it's all sunny, of course. Getting everything dialed in for 18 minutes, and, well, Unicorn, why don't you take us through the grid today?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, 20 drivers on the grid, both new and a couple of, new faces and a lot of experienced faces as well. We've got Domi there at the top of the list. Not only is he hosting this race, so big shout out to him for that, but it's also his home Grand Prix, the Hungarian. Right now, top of the time. So we're hoping to stay there, I would imagine. Yar there in P2. Yasko, four-door sedan alongside Psycho at Ferrari. Vexit, who I think just had a little bit of a connection problem there to the lobby. He's in the AlphaTauri tonight. Then we've got Yak there in 7th. Remco Van Putten alongside Noko in the 2 Alpines. Vincent in the Aston Martin. Then we have Blind and Larson over at McLaren Eruption in the Haas. Yaya in the other AlphaTauri. Cotters is here in 15th right now. Beccario down in 16th. Ben the Bear, well, if my memory serves, he won the Silverstone race. A great confidence boost for him coming into the new game, but we knew him from winning multiple titles last season, not only the Drivers' Championship in APAC, but the Constructors and the Combined Constructors as well. Alexander Zhu there in 18th for Wisp, alongside Cotters in the Red Bulls, and Grenade Goran rounds out the grid in the Alfa Romeo there. He's out just behind his teammate there, which is Yak for the evening.
The first driver out there, Remco van Putten, a driver you and I know quite well, and he's playing with his gears a little bit here. At the very least, he has some kind of, at the very least, on board with him. His gearbox does not sound the most ideal, but we'll try to follow him along for a flyer as he comes through the final turn now. Just around the pit entry we go. And on for a lap. DRS wide open on the rear wing. Unicorn, take us through the Hungaroring.
Yeah, here we go. Like you say, DRS wide open down into turn 1, opening it straight up into the DRS section, down into turn 2. The only 2 DRS zones of the track now into the looping left-hander of turn 2. Great place for an overtake, but you've got to hook it up for turn 3 here. Now coming down towards turn 4, a very, very tricky place to get a move done. It can be done. We also asked the drivers not to extend the track limits, but Remco, he goes around in a spin. He's kept that other wall quite nicely. He did tap it lightly with the rear, but that could have been qualifying over right then and there for the Dutchman. But it's an invalidated lap, and well, even if it wasn't, it would be lap over. Now, I think there's a problem up ahead as well. It looks like Yaya there had a problem too, so already a couple of issues. I think Psycho might be our leading car now as he comes out of sector 2, swinging out of turn 11. Still valid there. Another corner where track limits not to be extended. Turn 12, nicely through there. Maybe a little bit wide on the apex into the penultimate corner. Turn 13, this long left-hander using a bit of the pit entrance to extend the exit, but then into the final corner, hugging that wall on the inside. Gets through there a bit more successfully than a few Ferraris we've seen today, but a 1:14.4 to open up qualifying here tonight.
A very fast time to open up quali here. A 14.436. Vincent Nyquist comes through a 14.650, also on the soft compound tire. Before we get any more times onto the board here, massive shout out to Mr. Matteo Longe. Thank you so much for the raid and the host. Greatly appreciate that. And of course, we're here now for Hungary. Wisp comes through that 16.1 for the Swedish driver. He's on the medium compound tires. And, well, medium compound tires could very well be a serious tire of choice here for these racers over the long haul in Hungary, as tire degradation could play a factor. Of course, pole position today, not as quick as what we just saw from Psycho for the provisional run here. The game putting things a little bit quicker. Of course, Lewis Hamilton, pole position today, a 1:15.419. And of course, that will stand to put him on the front end tomorrow.
And well, we just dropped into the 113s with Yakak there, a 113.9. Half a second clear of Psycho there, and anyone else, including Ben the Bear right now. So that's a very, very impressive time. But sounds like we're going to be going even lower if chat is to be believed. And well, there's Yaya again. Another problem for the AlphaTauri. He had a problem earlier coming into turn 6. This time it's coming out of turn 11 where he seems to have had an issue in the AlphaTauri. No damage on the front end. And there's Grenade Goran, who is on an in-lap, I believe. So just letting go in case he wants to run again. And it looks like that will be the case.
Remco van Putten, a 14.152. The Dutchman finally getting that Alpine across the line, and it's under the front row provisionally here for him.
Yeah, a lot of lap times on the board. It's a fairly short track, so a lot of opportunity to get those sort of 3 runs that you usually see in, and obviously that means a little bit of patience to time it right in those final 5 minutes. And we've seen what traffic can do in the real world. We'll see whether we have sort of those kind of things pay any factor here. We've got both Alpines on track, it would seem, one behind the other. Monaco on an outlap. Remco Van Putten behind him, I believe, on an inlap, and that fuel light is flashing. So I imagine that is the case there.
Yeah. Coming through Sector 2, about to cross the split into Sector 3 here. Purple through there, of course, as there aren't too many cars on circuit. I think it is purple for the cars running at the minute. However, we'll see what he's able to do here. Coming through now into the final turn, the final section of the lap, keeping things as tight as he can as he pushes out now on the throttle, up through the gears, DRS on the rear, across the line. It's good for 4th position, a 14.569 coming out of Yaya tonight.
Yeah, huge improvement there, and we saw him have a few issues already. A guy just coming across in the chat saying that track evolution is huge, and I imagine that's in comparison to the last game, where the last 5 minutes was always sort of the key window, but I don't know whether that's sort of been increased and expanded to maybe the fact where the final 3 minutes. I think we saw a couple of people, waiting around there last time for those last few minutes, that little bit of extra grip. So we'll see if that plays a role tonight. Noku right now yet to set a time in the Alpine, flying through Sector 2 and doing so quite nicely. We haven't had too much on board through here, through 9 into 10, and just these nice flowing middle sector, and very, very wide there. And we'll see if anyone has anything to say about that in terms of the stewards. They were asked not to extend the limits at, I believe, 4 and 11 in terms of how wide you can go without the invalidation. And then around the inside through the final corner, DRS to the line, and Alpine only 11th quickest, so 1:15 flat.
Eruption flying right behind him in the Haas. He runs quite wide out on the final corner, and so that will be an invalidated run, and he will now, of course, not have an opportunity to get another one even going here, as it not only drops your running lap, but the lap ahead when you invalidate so close, of course, to the start of a run, and that's exactly what happened there. Yasko is on the move. He's just about to come through into Sector 3. Just ahead of him, his teammate Vincent Nyquist. Purple through Sector 2. He is pushing, and we know him to be quite rapid. What is Vincent, the young Swede, able to put forth today?
Yeah, like you say, a very, very quick driver coming through into the final corner in the Aston Martin. Nice and easy out of the final corner, and it's up to P3 on 1:14.372. A couple of tenths off of Remco Van Putten, about 4 tenths off of the provisional pole. Still yet to be beaten, and that was a fairly early time from Yakak there. At the top, there's Blind off on the left-hand side, letting the provisional pole holder. He's on an outlap right now. Not too long until he gets cracking again for another attempt. Ben the Bear, he's flying on the medium tires. We'll see what the Mercedes driver can do. He's always in the lobbies first, especially when it's these community events, to get that Mercedes car he does love to be in, and it's worked out so far. He's got, I think it's fair to say, Jeff, a 100% win rate this season coming into the new game.
Yeah, he's doing all right. Not the best luck for Ben. He comes into these races sometimes leaving frustrated with some of these performances, as we have more drivers getting out, putting laps on. 4 drivers yet to set times here. Yar, Vexit, Eruption, and Cotters. Ben now pushing through into Sector 3. Medium compound tires, the only driver in the session to have selected these tires so far, except Domi. Domi did set his run on the mediums, that 14.736, and we'll see what Ben's able to do to try and stand next to him. Both Mercedes drivers now home GP for Domi, but Ben now out of the final turn, keeping things tight. Third, 14.210. That's the mediums. So both Mercedes in the top 10 now on the mediums. Who was that came behind? It was the Alpine of Beccario. Excuse me. It was the Williams of Beccario, a 14.291.
Yeah, those two colors very, very similar on the timing tab. Pretty tricky to distinguish between the two. Yasko right now flying, but it seems like he's down as four-door sedan has quite the spectacular spin in front of him. The Ferrari will not be too happy about that. Right now, the slowest driver to set a time of 1:16.4 seems to be struggling. A word on Vector as well, so if you mentioned him there, not setting a lap time, had connection issues, so he hasn't had the first portion of this session. And Yaya seems to have crashed out, coming out of turn 1.
That is an area we have seen drivers, I feel, have issues previously in Hungary. I've always seen it a bit of a tricky traction zone coming off of that first turn. You can definitely have issues. I remember seeing Alex Budd, if I remember correctly, have issues there previously.
Yeah, now coming into, 7 minutes left, just there about under in the session. So over halfway in, and we'll talk about track evolution. We'll see how that sort of plays a role as we're waiting. There's Codders, I think, flying in the Red Bull. Yet to set a lap time. The young Irishman right now coming through turn 4, just about keeping it there within the lines, using the curb on the outside. I don't think that one, still, like we said, not too harshly punished. The drivers have been told about it though. Remco Van Putten on 1:13.9. That puts him pole by just 1/1000th of a second ahead of Jakak there. That is a very, very impressive lap time. But will it be enough to keep him on the front row by the end of the session? Still 6 minutes here. And there'll be lots of drivers looking to take that place. Like I say, exit yet to set a time due to connection issues. We know him to be a fast driver, but continuing on with Codders, he's into the penultimate corner. His teammate Wisp, P10 right now, 1:14.5. I imagine that's sort of a time he would be striving to beat. Being the top of those two Red Bull drivers is probably a healthy rivalry they've got going on there, but it's not to be for Codders. 15th, the 1:15 for him. Vexit then in the AlphaTauri. Well, he's into the last couple of corners as well, using all of the outside curbing through the penultimate corner into the final one. Opening it up, using the exit curbing there as well. Where does he put himself? It's pole position, a 1:13.6, and that is 3/10 clear of Remco Van Putten. Very, very nicely done there by Vexit.
Yeah, that was a very, very good time for him. Not a lot of time left in the session for him to get a run through. Interruption, excuse me, dare I say it, has now come through in the Haas. A 13.461 for the Haas driver, and well, the number 19 car now on provisional pole ahead of Vexit. And we have a little bit of a duel unfolding at the front end.
Yeah, it should be time for one more run for the pair of them. Fresh tires, one last shot. Yeah, coming through the final few corners as well. He went pretty wide coming out of 11, but again, the game not penalizing that, so the run is still live, and it's good enough for P5 as well on the mediums. So very, very nice time from him. Ben the Bear was only able to do a 1:14.2, but he is on the soft now that he's been knocked down a few places.
Looking on with No Cohen here as he comes out of the final turn. The Alpine across the line, 12th position. It is an improvement of just over half a second, but it's good for a 14.491. We look at, of course, the gap in this grid. First down to 12th position. 1 second is the separation on this grid, and I have to say the drivers behind down to 20th are not that far off. We have a little bit of a tire separation for a few drivers. Yar, Ben the Bear, Domi having all set their times on the mediums here in the session so far. Few drivers left to come through and get final runs in here. Blind is pushing. Yasko is also pushing just ahead of him. And we're going to look on with a few other drivers as I think we have, well, Codders pushing again. If not, he is on an in-lap.
Oh, Ben the Bear's just invalidated coming through turn 3. Just tried to take too much through the inside there. It is, a pretty clear-cut curb, but he's just tried to extend it too much, and he's paid the price for it with the red track map. But I would be surprised if Codders is pushing again. He's not. He is into the pit lane. 2 laps on those softs already. You're going to say he would want an improvement there to get onto a fresh set with a race start. There goes Jakak in the Alfa Romeo. Big spin coming out of the penultimate corner. Just lost the rear end. And it's just reversing there. He's clear of the racing line. Just trying to make sure when those cars switch over to the left to take the final corner, he's not in the way. But if there's a place to spin right before the pit exit, is it? You can see the rears are really heated. He is struggling to wrestle that car.
Something notably there, Beccario, if I'm not mistaken, through Sector 2, he is out of this session. I believe he had a crash. So he will not be finding any kind of improvement there, and a little bit of a jolt to the confidence.
Ben's crashed as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Ben the Bear.
Out of turn 11, it would seem.
Yeah, that's not good for Ben either here as the qualifying times continue to come through the track evolution.
Yeah, he's had a massive incident there. He's sort of halfway across the track on board with Ford Sedan. I just had a quick look at it there. Aston Martin's not getting a look too, but I think the car's gone. It has been cleared. But yeah, almost on the track, off the racing line, thankfully, for all the other drivers that would have been coming through there on their flyers. But Ben the Bear, uncharacteristic. You said it earlier, sometimes he gets a bit of bad luck. Well, that's the kind of performance that would leave him a bit annoyed with himself. Right now, only 8th, and well, that is on the mediums, but if he gets dropped out of that top 10, then those mediums aren't going to be that valuable. So we'll see how his time holds up right now, 1:14.2. But it's a close grid right now, Striff, and he could drop into the bottom 10 quite easily.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. First all the way down to 14th position, 1 second of separation there. It's a 16th. Wow, the Cotters, it's 1.1. You look at how tight that is, and of course Ben the Bear, he's on the medium compound tires with Yar in that top 10, which is a little bit of an edge here in Hungary, especially considering the degradation I find. At the start of this race, the back 10 drivers are going to have their choice of tire, but Ben having a decent choice just coming in to that top 10. And a good pace. We'll have to see how things go.
Yeah, and it's 70 laps. There's plenty of time to rectify that. Remco van Putten now his last run. You would think it's an improvement. He's still P4. Not by a lot, but he hasn't moved up. The Dutchman still there on the second row. We'll see whether he can contain that. Larsen's had a spin. The McLaren getting it pointed the right direction out of turn 1 after a mistake there. He was P7, and well, he won't get another run in here, so he'll be disappointed with himself on that front. I think it was Vincent Nyquist hopping up into P5. Vexit's called it quits. I think that's it. Has there been a collision between drivers out of turn 11? I think Alexander and Vexit might have come together. There's 2 dots down there.
I'm not entirely sure. I saw Alexander retire the car coming off on the race control at the bottom. And I'm not entirely sure. I think Vexit might have hit his retired car. There might have been an issue. I don't know. I did not see that. I have Eruption right now coming through just the final 2 turns now here in the Hungaroring. And we'll have to see what he's able to do. That 1:13.4, and he's not going to bother trying to set that time or improve. It might have just very well been an in-lap, to be fair. But this session, very interesting end to this session here in Hungary. I don't really know what to say. We've got Yayaka in 6th position, pushing.
He was provisional pole leader for the beginning sort of third of this session. No one could get to his time. A little bit wide there through the final corner. I think he knows it, and yeah, he's not going to put that one across the line with any haste. Dropped 6/10 there. I imagine a lot of that would have been through that final few corners. His teammate Grenade, the only other active fly. I think no, Cottas is going as well, but they're both invalid. So neither lap time will count. Cottas wasn't an improvement anyway. So I think that is our grid for the evening. A few engine glitches on my end. The engine sound is here, but it doesn't always sound completely correct. That's what I'd say on that front. But we do have Eruption on pole with Domi at his home Grand Prix. P2 will be hungry to take that P1 and turn 1, turn 2 on the opening lap. Definitely, you got to say that's a very, very good place to take it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you something else. This grid, so tight. It's going to be a very, very thrilling race. From first all the way down to 18th position, just 1.2 seconds the separation. And I'm very excited to see how these racers go for the long duration, the long haul, the endurance series. Of course, it's round 11. If you are just joining us, my name is Striffium, here hailing from Canada. Joining me is Unicorn from the UK. And we're here for a 100% distance campaign for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And it's Eruption on pole position in the Haas, a 13.461. And Domi, well, he might not be the happiest man alive at the minute, not taking pole, but I have to say, the front row, well, not far from it. The Hungarian in the Mercedes, a 13.528, just shy of a 10th on the rear of Eruption. Very, very tight grid right now as we have the Englishman of Vexit in the AlphaTauri representing Shazoo today. In the, well, third slot, 13.630, getting that run in. And he had a bit of an issue there, unfortunately, at the end, I do believe, with the other Haas driver, Eruption's teammate. So we'll have to see how these drivers do as we move through into the Endurance Series.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very, very entertaining night. We've got Yara and Ben now on the mediums. They qualified in the top 10. Obviously, Ben was trying to go for a soft, didn't get it, still qualified P10. So he's got a little bit of benefit from it, but he will be kicking himself with the crash. But we'll see how everything unfolds. Strategy, you got 70 laps in these endurance races, always takes a hold on things, even more so than it always does in the traditional sort of 50% league races that we do. And probably worth noting as well, it's half an hour until signups for Season 5 close. So if you are looking to get involved with some league races, we've had a lot of signups already, but they are still open for another half an hour. They close at midnight Central European time, and that is 30 minutes from now. So if you are looking to !apply in the chat, and they'll bring you up to the form you have to fill in. Obviously, !Discord as well to make sure you're notified when everything you need to do is being done. But yeah, half an hour left on those. So I imagine most people will have signed up already. But if you haven't got one in and you're looking for a league, last minute signups are still being accepted for the next 28 or so minutes. But we're on the formation lap, 20 cars drift for the second time in this new game. It's a very exciting proposition, and it's around the Hungaroring. We'll see what happens here tonight.
Extremely thrilled for this exchange. Look at the tires. We have not so many drivers outside of that top 10 on the softs, but we do have some nonetheless. Nokahan there in 15th position with Blind and Fordor at the back row. All on the softs. Of course, we have Larsen down through to the lead of this grid on the softs as well as they set their times in the qualifying. But it's a very interesting dynamic there. Some of those drivers really wanting to push through this grid rapid with those soft compound tires. Of course, they're going to be a little bit more, well, they're going to have a little bit more rubber on them than the drivers on their qualifying softs. Yar and the Bear qualifying on their mediums. That will be an interesting dynamic between the fresh medium runners as well. Psycho, Grenade. But of course, take us through the grid, Unicorn.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, we've got the Haas on pole. That's Eruption right there. It was less than a tenth between him and the man at home, Domi in P2. We'll see what happens between them into turn one. A good start here. Could mean a lot. Vexit, he had qualifying problems. He disconnected for the first half of qualifying. Still managed to get a lap in. Good for third alongside Remco Van Putten, the Dutchman. We've seen him make a few fireworks last week out in Silverstone. We'll see whether he can have another exciting race here tonight. Vincent in the Aston Martin starts P5 ahead of Yak there. A name that I don't think we've seen too frequently, but a very, very impressive debut, if it is indeed his debut. Wisp in 7th in the Red Bull, ahead of the first of the medium runners. In 8th place, Yar there in the Williams. Larsen, P9 on the soft. Ben the Bear, the only other driver to qualify on the medium, starts P10 with a crash out in qualifying. He'll be hoping to rectify that here in the race after winning Silverstone 2 weeks ago. Psycho, Grenade, Becario, Yasko on the mediums. Noko in 15th on the soft. Yaya, Cotters, Alexander all on the mediums. And then Blind, Fordor rounding out this grid. Start on the softs, looking to make some early positions. But it's not long now, Striff, until the lights go out.
No, definitely not. Welcome to the Hungarian Grand Prix, round 11 of the Misfits Racing League Endurance Series. My name's Striffium, and joining me is Unicorn and Well. Here we have the lights. 3, 4, 5 red lights here around the Hungaroring. The lights are out, and we are racing. Eruption off the line. Domi looking to catch up as quickly as he can, but Remco Van Putten, what a launch he's had, and here comes a few other drivers. Very deep is the Alfa Romeo as well as the Aston Martin. And I have to say, Vexit has not had the most ideal launch off the line here. He's been mugged by a very serious group of cars here. Domi, Van Putten, wheel to wheel, Vincent with the front row seat. We come through turn 3 now. Everybody is pushing with everything they can. Nothing too bad going on as I say it. Wisp and Ben the Bear, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Wisp and Ben the Bear coming out of turn 3. What did I just witness? Unicorn, Ben and Whisper out of this race.
Yeah, well, he said Ben might be kicking himself off the qualifying. Obviously, we're not quite sure who that is there at full. I don't think, unless, of course, you saw it, but obviously stewards will have a look afterwards. But Ben and Wisp out of this one. Neither driver will be happy about that one. We also saw the VSC turn into a full safety car. So we do have a safety car out. already on lap 1. Also worth pointing out, up at the front, the timing tout wasn't too useful earlier on, but Remco up 2 places. Domi, he wasn't having the best start off the line. He was falling back on eruption, but managed to get his car side by side into turn 1. But that just left him too vulnerable on the exit. He's coming into the pits. He is getting off of those softs early, but that opened up the door for Remco, who's up 2 places. And Vincent as well, he'll get up 2 places as well now as he overtakes Domi, who's into the pits, along with Vexit there. In the AlphaTauri, you said, didn't have a great start, so we're seeing a few tyre changes already. Some of these drivers on the softs, possibly trying to 2-stop from here on out on the mediums. It'll be a little bit difficult. It looks like Vexit held there a little bit. I'm not quite sure what for, though.
Could have been.
I don't think he had a penalty, and I don't think I think Domi was too far gone for it to be an unsafe release. So I don't know whether that's a small issue with the game where it holds someone for too long when a car comes past, but Exit was held for an awfully long time there after the tires were put on the car, and the time attack still playing a few tricks, but it is Eruption still in lead of things in the Haas, and it was a very, very good race start for him.
Yeah, he was very fortunate. Eruption coming through turn 1. There was so much action going on in his rear view mirrors. I have to say, Remco van Putten had an absolute rocket launch on his start, and he's in 2nd position as a result of that. But of course, we saw Vincent, and then we had Vexit with his issues, and he's onto the mediums, of course, now with Domi. But man, that race start, quite something, especially at the front end of that grid. And then unfortunately we saw that incident, at the very least on our end, just in the background, coming out of turn 3 between Ben the Baron Wisp, the Mercedes, and the Red Bull here on lap 1. BSC to safety car deployment, and we are not going to be long before I imagine we head back to green flag racing. We're just waiting on that safety car to come in. We'll be going around, I do believe, 1 more lap here. But what an intense race start that was.
Yeah, and again, this game's still fairly fresh as well. It's worth pointing out, setups won't be, too perfect, but with the fact that, league racing hasn't really resumed too much, there would have been an opportunity to practice a lot for this event. So you've got sort of 2 sides to the coin there, and people will be starting to get to grips not only with the handling model, but with the setup building process as well. So you will start to see sort of an improvement, but that also might cause a little bit of a division where some people do have better setups at this stage of the race. The information hasn't sort of been gathered around the perfect setup, so people will be trying tweaking them themselves. Noco into the pits here. There was a bit of a separation through the 2nd sector on the safety car train. I wonder whether the Alpine got caught up in something there. Onto the medium tires. Was it a wing change as well? We'll have a little look. It was. So a little bit of front wing damage there for the Alpine. That's not how you want to start out the race. Also worth noting, it appears there's also his home race as well. Not the only Hungarian on the grid, of course, with Domi, who started this race well in qualifying. 15th after the first few laps, but he has also come in for those fresh mediums too.
We'll just have to see how that dynamic rolls out now, being a stop ahead of the rest of this field with a safety car now to really bring you close. Of course, we'll just be waiting now on the Alpine to catch up to the grid. Eruption following along with the nice red Mercedes safety car.
Well, he's not
here.
catching up if he's crashed.
No.
He's out of the race.
No.
He will not be catching the safety car, and I wonder whether that means that we're going to go around again, or whether... Nope. Race control calls it in. So I'm confident the marshals can get that Alpine off of the track quickly, but that is unfortunate. So out of turn 5, we said it earlier, that curb can be very tricky, but it's all in Eruption's hands now to get this race restarted. He's got to wait for that safety car to bring it back home into the pits.
Very unfortunate incident there for the Alpine. That is now 3 cars out of this race. We are on lap 3, about to start lap 4 of this round 11 Hungarian Grand Prix. Eruption, Remco van Putten, Vincent, your top 3 here. Eruption rounding out of the final turn now. That throttle is flat down, and he is pushing across the line now. Where's Vincent? We've had an issue. What's this? Is that a retirement in the pit lane? No.
No, it's not in the pit lane. He's crashed it into the pit wall, yeah. It was a fairly early spin. I don't know if there was contact with another driver, but a very, very poor start for Yar there, or restart, I should say. Just slams it straight into the pit wall. The contact that's been terminal has been with the wall, not another driver. Whether it was a contact with another driver that put him there, well, that's yet to be seen. But for the Spaniard, that is very, very unfortunate. As for everyone else, not really any movement, but Cotters appears to have had a problem. Is it? No, it's Vexit. Vexit's out as well.
He's just outside of turn 3. We had a bit of a view there. And this is a very, very, very interesting race.
Well, it's a tricky track to get right, and already 5 drivers have sort of become a victim of that, and we're seeing through turn 11 the drivers respecting that track limits, wanting to put out Psycho Domi side by side through there, having a little bit of an exchange. Domi looking to try and make a few positions up to 13th now for the Hungarian at his home race, and he is now, I do believe, the only Hungarian left. Yako as well on the rear of Lars, and he's looking nicely positioned to get a move down into turn 1. Here goes the Alfa Romeo on the inside of the McLaren, and that is a dream overtake. ERS in perfect utilization and just breezes by the McLaren.
Yeah, and very neatly done there. Not a lot that Larsen had at his disposal to fend off Jayak there in the Alfa Romeo, and of course Beccario on the medium compound tires is in a good position to hold well with these soft runners. Larsen has a bit of a snap that's going to bring Beccario even closer. Eruption, Remco, Vincent, they're pulling away from this train of cars here. Jayak a little bit off the rear now, 1.5 seconds, and growing is the gap for the Alfa Romeo, and this train's going to be wanting to push through as quickly as they can. Beccario, however, he's struggling on the curbings of the chicane. As we move back through the grid now, the Haas on the rear of Yasko. That's Alexander with Yaya in the rear view mirrors in 10th position, the Alpha Tauri.
Absolutely. Now people will just sort of be trying to get into a groove, find a stable sort of pace. But Domi, well, he's going up the inside into turn 12. I said it was a possible overtaking position. Fordor's not going to let him have it easy. He's still there on the inside of 13. Domi looking on the outside. He's got 1, but 2 Ferraris there. Doesn't let Psycho back through, but he hasn't got the move done on Fordor. Fordor has to go a little bit wider as the Mercedes sticks his nose in. And Domi is through. Can he stay ahead, though, as they come down the start-finish straight? Psycho's still looking at the rear of this. Is he going to be able to pounce? Maybe not on Domi, but his teammate is looking at it a little bit vulnerable. Up the inside, there's been a bit of contact between the 2 Ferraris, and Psycho gets a little bit sideways, manages to hold on to the car. And as they come down into turn 2, they are still sort of side by side, but Psycho having to back out here. Tried it, nearly cost the Scuderia not 1 but 2 cars, and Domi makes his way up into P12. A very, very nicely constructed move from the Hungarian.
Yeah, it's very nice here. The Ferraris have to be careful. Well, never mind. Cotters has had an issue as he comes out of turn 4 through 5, and he went a little bit wide. He was just edging close to the rear of Psycho there in 14th position, but nothing doing now as he'll need to catch that gap back up to the Ferrari. Grenade on the rear of Beccario. A fight between medium runners. Yasko not close enough to be a part of it just yet, but he is within that DRS range, and we'll be seeing DRS very shortly here as Eruption comes through the final turn.
Domi still looking for more moves, this time on blind, and he's been hunting blind, forcing a few mistakes throughout the lap. It's very, very close. We saw him put up the inside here into the final turn last time around, and he's going to do exactly the same thing again. These mediums really not holding him back. It's another position lost here for a McLaren as Domi comes through. Can Ford Sedan fight it as well? He's got a great carrier speed, and it goes up the inside of the McLaren into turn 1, and it looks like he will be able to hold it. DRS open once more for the Ferrari, and that will just be enough to carry him through into turn 2. There's been an issue up ahead. Eruption's out. He's crashed from lead of the race, and that front left wheel is missing from the car. He's bounced across the track.
That is another safety car.
And it's the safety car.
What
Lap 7
we had here?
I don't know how he's got there.
Has just given so many drivers an issue today, and I have to really wonder what has gone on track in some of these exchanges.
Well, Eruption was over a second clear at one point, so I imagine it wasn't a collision with, Remco Van Putten or Vincent, but the way it was, the front left was missing off his car. So he's either just completely missed turn 3, gone very wide, slammed the wall there and bounced across the track, which the angle his car was seems unreasonable. Or the other option is that he's just gone too hot in there, spun the car completely around, hit the inside wall, and his car's pirouetted from the contact there. Remco's going to come into the pit lane. Vincent looks like he's going to follow suit, as are the other soft runners. We'll see what the mediums do, though. Lars has gone in. Becario staying out, so he's going to take lead of this race. Grenade Goran as well. But that is a very, very dramatic start. Eruption was such a good start to the evening for him. You can safely say it hasn't ended in the way that he would have hoped to. And this safety car shuffling the grid up. This is already a pit stop for, 4 drivers plus the few that are already on fresh tires. So now Domi, let's look at him. 5-lap-old mediums, but he's up into 6th place. He's made those overtakes earlier on in the race. Now this safety car brings him back into the thick of things, up into P6. He started 2nd. His home race, podium chance still very much on. All the cars ahead of him yet to pit. So really, you could give him net lead of this race, but he's going to have to deal with Remco Van Putten, Vincent when they catch back up. And you'd think that they would do so with that 5-lap tire advantage as well.
Yeah, definitely here. Definitely here. Well, any tire advantage you can have here is going to be absolutely massive. And I think Domi here is going to have a major advantage over all of these drivers, given the fact that he did qualify in 2nd position. His front row rival, Eruption, out of the campaign. Cotters, well, he's on his starting medium compound tires with Remco Van Putten behind him. Remco Van Putten needing to dispatch Cotters immediately.
Yeah, honestly, a very, very dramatic start to this race. And going to be going around again, like you said. And this is just 2 safety cars and the opening 10% of the race. You hate to see it, but for the other drivers, this has given, a little bit of tire variation, whereas we had a lot of medium runners at the start and obviously the softs. Now we're just on sort of a split pack. We've got the fresh mediums at the back. We've got the warm mediums at the front, and it's pretty much a 50-50 split. You've got the rear 8, or the top 7, sorry, on the old mediums, and the rear 7 on the... It's a perfect split, with the exception of Domi there, I guess you could say, on the sort of medium one tires. But other than that, it's pretty much 50-50 on the tire strategy now. We'll see whether at this point forward a 2-stop is possible. I imagine for the drivers that just pit, it will be. As for whether Domi is able to make the 2-stop work, medium here, I think he has to make it work in terms of any hope at a podium. And if he can make it work, well, that podium very much on. If he can't make it work, that's when it's going to slip through his fingers. If he has to go onto the hards at the end of this race, rather than a 2nd set of mediums, his other opportunity would be, well, another 2 stops, soft. But again, I think that would really reduce his chance at making the podium at his home Grand Prix, given the fact that overtaking around here is not easy stuff, and we've seen that already with the retirements. We've got, Wisp and Ben side by side through Sector 1. Hasn't worked out for them. We saw it in qualifying as well, where a couple of cars seem to have come together. And just curbs seem to be catching people out. The new game, obviously, we've heard it about the curb strip. I think that might be the problem here.
Well, it's definitely caught a few drivers out. Of course, the Endurance Series, not for the faint of heart. We've got Eruption, Vexit, Yar, Nugahun, Ben the Bear, and Whip. 6 drivers, of course, of fairly decent caliber out of this race pretty early here. And we'll have to see what the rest of these drivers are able to do now, as the safety car will be preparing to come in for lap 10. And there we have it, race control saying just that. We will be going green for lap 10. I definitely wanted to see Vexit make a comeback after his unfortunate race start. I suppose it just wasn't in the cards for the Shizou driver today. Yar, a few issues for him. Ben the Bear, I think he had a lot of eyes on him, having qualified on the medium compound tires as well. And Wisp, well, he's definitely struggling. And now we have a severe collision between Vincent Nyquist and, unfortunately, Remco Van Putten, as we have Becario getting this grid geared up, back to go racing. He is looking to throttle it down out of the final turn now. He caught Grenade.
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly a second into turn 1 already. It's a brilliant race restart there from Becario. Everyone else, we've got the Mercedes and Domi looking up the inside of Yaya, and a great send there from him. Remco Van Putten looking for the Red Bull of Cotters, and not only he's found it, but Vincent has snuck his way through, like you mentioned there. 5-second penalty going to Remco for a severe collision. Yaya, Domi still sorry aside. Cotters uses yet another position. Those old mediums really not helping, but Vincent is sliding. He's into the wall, and he's lucky not to have had a retirement there. Given what we've seen earlier, no front wing for him. And I wonder whether there was a bit of contact. He was looking to go side by side with Remco. Have to wait and see. And it looks like Larsen's had a problem as well in the McLaren. No damage visible, though. And again, another problem further up. Yaya, I think, pointing the wrong way. No, it's Psycho, sorry, no front wing for the Ferrari there.
Very unfortunate for Psycho, as he was looking to be in a decent position. He will now drop behind the rear of his teammate with no front wing on that Ferrari. Vincent, of course, he's struggling trying to get things back into the pit lane for a wing change here.
There's another problem this time. It's the McLaren are blind. Not a great restart for either McLarens. The front two, well, they've just torn away from the rest of this grid. Cottas, Yaya, they exchange as Cottas. Well, he's spun it out of the final corner strip. What is going on here? It's like everyone is driving on ice out there. But for the few that are able to tame the cars and control the track, it is going brilliantly. And like I said, those top two really starting to steam away. Yasko leading a bit of a charge. He's got a gap to Alexander behind. Domi, though, on the tail of the Haas there. Yasko, he was looking a bit unsettled in qualifying. Seems to have had a bit more of a rhythm here in the race. But you see it there on the Aston Martin. A little bit of a slide coming out of turn 5. Nothing major, but the kind of thing that might just cost you a bit of time here or there, or at least a bit of confidence for the next few corners. Hasn't cost him too much time to the car behind. Probably about a tenth or so, if that. But it's just the kind of mistake you can't really make, especially if there was a car behind threatening. Now as he loses more time through turn 11, Alexander is going to go straight up the inside into 12. And he is not going to be asked twice to take that position away. Now you've got Domi all over the rear of the Aston Martin.
Yasko, forgetting which game he's in, he's using a lot of curbs coming through the circuit in Sector 2, and he was trying to slingshot himself into, well, position where he really needed to find lateral grip that I don't think he was finding. But Domi right now looking for him into turn 1. He's got that look into the inside. Does he go later on the brakes? Yes, he does. Has he dispatched Yasko? It's tight. There's a bit of a squeeze coming out of the Mercedes, but that's 4th position for the hometown Hungarian here. Domi now on a charge in the Mercedes.
Yeah, and Remco Van Putten side by side with Yasko as well, looking for it. He's already had one problem potentially with an Aston Martin through there. This time, it's gone a bit more smoothly for both drivers involved. Through turn 4 they go, and Yasko drops yet another position, and he's got an Alfa Romeo who's been impressing all evening as well on his gearbox. Can Yaka find a way through? Not through the chicane, that's for sure. Definitely not an overtaking spot, even for the bravest drivers. Want to bring attention to Domi's drift. What a redemption he's had. Not the best race start, late on the brakes into turn 1, but a bit late. But that hasn't deterred him. He's still been brave on that brake pedal, really going up the inside into turn 12, into turn 1, and it's working out beautifully for him here at home. And he's already fought his way up almost into the podium positions. I would not be surprised to see him take 3rd here into turn 1. And he has a pit stop in hand.
There goes Yasko. Yasko's had an issue. He's just burned it coming out of the penultimate turn, and that is a huge crash for the Aston Martin. And we saw him struggling for grip through the entirety of the last few laps. Sector 3 does have that yellow waving right now. We have not had a VSC or a safety car deployed. Yasko getting a very early league racing lesson. Herbs, and well, that's just not good for him at all.
Good news for Domi, as he was lining up the move and he got it done on Alexander, but had that safety car come out, obviously would have stopped that move. Remco Van Putten next in line in the Alpine to take over 4th place from the Haas driver. But we'll see. Again, Sector 2, almost impossible to overtake through unless someone has a mistake or an issue. Vincent on fresh softs, a 1:18.7 sets the fastest up of the race. His teammates just retired. He had a crash not too long ago, but using those fresh softs to his advantage. Nice to see that curve at turn 11 being able to be utilized, and as long as it's not abused, it does seem to have opened up the driving just a bit more realistic there to see everyone using that curve and not afraid to use it either. So it's lovely to see everyone abiding by the rules that are, stewards in the Discord have set out, and it's a pleasure to watch them use what is a more realistic racing line through there, and it's something we wish the game had accommodated in itself. Remco not able to get a move down into turn 1. We'll see whether the Red Bull of Cottas is able to be a bit more successful on the McLaren blind, but that's a compromised exit there. Just got a bit too close, but the DRS, the ERS are going to pull him through. And again, we see a McLaren lose the position. They have not had a great opportunity, but a late break for the McLaren. Sticks it up the inside, doesn't find it, and loses a bit of traction as well. Alexander, well, he's spun. The Haas is facing the wrong way.
A lot of drivers struggling right now. Alexander adding himself to a long list today. A very long list today. He's on that front wing list. Vincent Nyquist has retired the car in the pit lane on the 14th lap of contention.
You hate to see it. We're down to just 12 drivers in almost as many laps. And it's, you know, again, a new game. Everyone seems to struggle to get to grips with it. It seems that it's just being a lot harder to adjust to this new game and the new environment, the new handling model, etc. Grenade on Beccario, looking for it into turn one, leader things. Beccario, a great safety car restart, but it's not been enough to hold Grenade off because it looks like he's going to go on the inside, but around the outside, Beccario, a great defense, but DRS, ERS is just too powerful 2 times. And there goes the Alfa Romeo through on the Williams.
Grenade, a beautiful move there, but they are causing themselves a serious position problem here with Domi, the Hungarian, on the fresher rubber, hunting them down.
Yeah, and this is something we weren't seeing, you know, a few laps ago. When we restarted that safety car, Beccario got a 1 second lead. There was a 1 second gap behind. And now that has just been absolutely destroyed. And now that they had that little tussle there, Beccario, you can see he doesn't quite have the pace here at Grenade. And that means he definitely doesn't have the pace of Domi, who qualified P2, fought his way back up to the front of things here. Has a little look up the inside into turn 12, thinks better of it here. But you can see the trapped pace, again, threatens the move into turn 13, the penultimate corner. But he's just trying to force an error here. He can sense that Beccario is not feeling, you know, as confident in terms of pace, but in terms of just track position and placing the car in the right place, Beccario is doing everything correctly. Obviously, DRS and ERS here are going to make the move easy for Domi, but Remco Van Puren's going to try it as well, and he finds it on the Williams. That is an excellently opportunistic move as Beccario just runs into the back of the Alpine. He's got the Alfa Romeo on his gearbox as well, and no DRS might mean he loses a 3rd position here. 3 places in 2 corners, Beccario. That is not what you want to have done to you. 4 places in mugging. 2 laps. That is horrifying for the Williams. And you can see now the lack of pace, and also maybe the starts of the tires to go as well. Dropping off here. But some great moves there from the 3 drivers that did overtake him. And now they're catching Grenade as well to hunt down leader things. And Striv, I think the 3 drivers there, Domi, Remco, Jack here, I reckon we could be seeing a potential podium finishes. But there are still 54 laps to go. We've already seen plenty of drivers struggle. We've also got some hard tires on the grid for the first time this evening. Alexander Zhu there, down in 12th place in the Haas. Lost his front wing, trying something different. You like to see someone try something a little bit different, and we'll see how that works out for him in last place. I say last place. He's only 2 places out of the points. Blind, he gets a 3-second time penalty and drops to his teammate as well. No damage, though, on the McLaren.
Well, exchange between McLarens, no damage. That's always something you'd like to see if you're a teammate or getting through on your teammate with no issues. Grenade right now. He's being chased down by Domi. And Domi, well, we've seen him win the Hungarian Grand Prix a handful of times through various races in the Misfits, and I think winning a 100% distance campaign would add a very long list of wins to his very long resume. What has happened now to Alexander? The Haas
crashed his car. He's lost his front wing, and he's retired the car on track. The AI's pulled it off into the runoff outside turn 11 there. And Connors is out as well. He's crashed it out of turn 3.
That's a safety car.
And that's caused the safety car. So not the Haas, but the Red Bull crashing has caused the safety car there. And that is half the grid out. And not a lot of space of time. 17 laps. And that is disappointing, to say the least here. Let's see what happens in terms of strategy. Grenade Goran, this is a saving grace. 16 laps on those mediums. Surely he comes in, but he doesn't. It's a bold call. I imagine he's still hanging on for a 2-stop there. So, not wanting to use the hards and not wanting to 3-stop. He's going to stay out here and not take the pit stop on the safety car. Seems that is the popular decision. We'll see if either the McLaren does it. Lars is coming in, and that means that Blind sort of has his hand forced unless he wants to double stack. He would only lose 1 position, in all fairness, to the Ferrari of Psycho behind.
This is giving me Monaco flashbacks.
Yeah, not a race you want to remember in a hurry unless you're one of 3 people. But we'll see whether there's a similar tale here for the drivers of the Hungaroring. I imagine, whatever it happens, Domi will stay till the very end and will happily pick up a nice finishing position. It's guaranteed points for everyone left in it. But for the home driver, a potential podium is really on the cards now.
In order to finish first you have to finish. Is that not the saying?
Indeed it is, and I think you can even paint it on your car in this game. Obviously not here, where we're using the official 2021 cars, but it'd be well to remember that, I think, for a few of the drivers who are already out so early on. There's so many laps left that a problem at this stage in an endurance race like this, you really can just come back from it, and just not a lot of faith there in themselves, it would seem. Obviously, some drivers have had legitimate issues. You know, Ben Wiss, lap 1, just come together. Unfortunately, outside of turn 3, that's a retirement for both cars. And while the Mercedes and the Red Bull coming together on lap 1, that's not something unheard of in the real world. We'll see whether it happens tomorrow. History repeats itself, but a lot of drama there in the real world. Also worth pointing out, Steph, I do believe signups just closed for season 5, so that action, obviously, we all have to look forward to, and hopefully at that point everyone's got a bit of a better grip on the game, because it has thrown everyone here a little bit of a curve. We're still waiting for Psycho to catch up, and I'm surprised he hasn't taken advantage of this safety car, because he has nothing to lose here by going on to a fresh set of mediums. Absolutely nothing.
No, definitely not.
So I'm surprised he hasn't gone for that strategy. Even maybe going on to softs and pitting at the same time he would have pitted. On these mediums, would have been a better strategy for the Ferrari driver, but he stays out, and we'll see what his intentions are there. But he's just going to drop off this grid on, you know, some of the oldest tires that this grid does have.
This has been a very dynamic and unique race for the 11th round of the Endurance Series. Of course, we do the Endurance Series every Formula One race weekend, and we do our best to try and do it on the track that World Championship is being held in. So, of course, we're here in Hungary this weekend. We've had a few races that we had to kind of do our own versions, of course, not being able to do Imola yet, and a few of the other circuits, of course.
Yeah, and we're looking forward for when those tracks are in the game, and they will be. It's just a matter of being patient here. Safety cars in. We've had great restarts already from some of the drivers, and, well, the track layout sort of aids in that fact. Obviously, the grid now a little bit shorter, given that we have got a few drivers, you know, out of things now. A lot of tire warming, very, very close between Remco, Jacko, and Beccario there. But Grenade Goran, imagine we're going to see exactly the same what we've seen. Going through the final corner, and then just floor it as soon as you're out of the traction zone. And that is exactly what we're seeing. And it hasn't really caught Domi out, but it has, just by nature, caught everyone else. There's been a collision between Yaya and Beccario, it would seem. I don't know if that was a spin that just collected another driver, or whether there was contact before the incident. But either way, not great for either of them. Blind at the inside of 4-door is going to try and take that, but 4-door into P5 holds on to the position for now. Blind with a great run down to the outside, though, through turn 2. A little bit slow around the outside, and as such, 4-door will be able to hold on. And Blind's teammate, Larson, is looking at all of this hungrily. doesn't quite get past, taps the rear of his teammate. They're all having to back off as they go down into turn 4. It's a risky place to go side by side. Blind's risking, and he's going to go up the inside through turn 5. If he'd have been a bit braver there, I think he would have got it, but I think he wanted to make sure 4-door wasn't going to go careering off into the gravel trap. And they're side by side this chicane. That doesn't work, and Blind loses not only to his teammate, but to Psycho as well. It's a brilliant battle between the Ferraris and the McLaren as Larson goes wide. Does this allow Psycho through as they come through to turn 10? Yes, it does. Larson early on the brakes into turn 11. Psycho will take full advantage of that. And it's a Ferrari who was leading ahead of the two McLarens. It's now 2 Ferraris ahead of both McLarens. A brilliant bit of driving from both Scuderies as Larson has a big snap, goes very, very wide through the front corner, and loses the position to his teammate as well.
Yeah, he did that just as we were trying to move on to Jayak there. Now in the Alfa Romeo, pushing down on Remco Van Putten. It's not over at the back end of things right now. Yaya is looking at the McLaren, looking for a move on the inside of turn 1. It's Yaya on the inside of Larson. Larson, will he push out with a decent enough exit? It's 20-lap-old mediums versus the 2-lap-old hards, and Larson right now with the better grip through the turn. A little bit of a squeeze there from Larson. Yeah. Could have a bit of a connection issue on his end, and Larson will do what he can to catch back up to Blind as Blind now begins to drop off the rear of Psycho in the Ferrari. Psycho, meanwhile, hunting down his teammate, both Psycho and Blind, with penalties on the board, joining Remco Van Putten in that club as well. Speaking of Remco Van Putten, he has to keep his wits about him as the Alfa Romeo continues to hunt him down, pushing through into Sector 3.
Yeah, we've got a lot of drivers now very close in these front runners. The McLaren's exchange again, Blind, some sort of issue as there's a problem behind for Yaya. And I'm not quite sure how that's happened. There was definitely a connection issue there because on my screen, Beccario hits the AlphaTauri. Then the AlphaTauri moved, but Beccario is still out of this race. And that becomes the 11th retirement in 21 laps. Safety car is out again. Blind will pit. Yaya surely comes into the pits as well. Yes, he does. Everyone else was already past the pit lane, I think, before that happened. 9 drivers. Grenade still leads after the safety car restart. He will have the same thing again, which will give him, a rebalance into that big 1 second gap that you can pull coming out of the first corner. Domi did well to stay with him last time. We'll see whether it happens again this time. Remco Van Putten still without a 5-second penalty. He got for Vincent tapping him in the rear under the safety car last time. Seems that the driver in front that gets hit in a collision in this game seems to be the one that gets the penalty. Hopefully that is, correct, and it was Remco's fault. Maybe slammed on the brakes a little bit too hard down into the parkway corner. But if it wasn't his fault, something that obviously the game will obviously have to have a look at. But that's sort of out of our hands. Unfortunate for Remco Van Putten, who will have to make another pit stop here.
What an unbelievable campaign. This has been 9 drivers on lap 22.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. And it is, now a real test of the endurance. It does seem to be a lot of spins. It's not, collisions with another driver. It's just struggling to keep control of the car. And I think a lot of that in the new curves, we've already had that, discussion around the Discord amongst everyone who's got the game. The curbs in this one are a lot harsher than they were in the previous iteration. And I think a few of these drivers are struggling with that. And Hungary already was a track with tricky curbs. Pice is where you could spin out of. Last game, you saw it multiple times. People spinning out of turn 4, hooking the curb in turn 5. The chicane 6-7 has a vicious curb there. And we saw it last game as well, coming out of 13, not even curb related. The traction zone there is difficult. And with the new handling model, it just seems to have caught out a lot of drivers, a lot of established drivers as well. Drivers we know to be good racers, just getting themselves, come out of left field in terms of the track. And they just haven't been able to wrestle it to keep it going.
Yeah, it has been a very, very long night of drivers with great experience, of course, coming through into this race and really struggling here around the Hungaroring, and there has been an update to, of course, the handling model, the curbs, and while going through a 100% distance campaign for some of these drivers might have been a bit of a tall order. Of course, we'll have to just look at that moving ahead, and maybe they'll be able to take this as a learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to take this, especially, think of this as a pre-season sort of thing. Obviously, this is part of the endurance series, but it's in the new game, and this is great experience for the 9 drivers left in it, that they're going to get over their rivals. A lot of these drivers will have signed up. We've got many people sign up for the new season 5. Sign-ups closed, just over 15 minutes ago or so. And these 9 drivers now are going to get, if they make it to the end, 50 more laps of practicing than the drivers who retired. And that's league racing practice. You can't simulate that in practice. Wheel to wheel with the drivers you could be up against in the league. We'll see what happens here in the remaining few races. But Grenade again. Hands at the moment. Looks like he's gone early here. And I think he's done that to try and sort of
Offset
shuffle his decision.
Yeah.
You saw him do what was expected last time, and it hasn't caught Domi out again, but it has given them a nice gap behind. Four-door sedan has really been left sitting, and his team then is going to take full advantage of that. But is it already too much damage for the Ferraris to keep up? They've already lost the second window. Obviously, DRS will take a couple of laps to be re-engaged here. But, my goodness. Crazy start to this race. 24 laps in. So for a third of the way through.
Cars in right now, tight to the rear, 4-door sedan, looking through turn 5. Turn 5 is a turn that's caught out a few drivers already in this session, and well, as tires continue to degrade, for the majority of this grid, the drivers like Larsen, Yaya, and Blind should have that massive upper hand, as we've said, because of that. And right now, Larsen on the hards, he might not have the same pace in the tires that those mediums have, but he does have that long-form strategy advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing as well is that because this is a new game, you've got a different tire wear model as well. And we've had a lot of safety cars already. And that means tire strategy management. Yaya having a big look up the inside of Larsen. And the tire advantage you were just speaking about, Sif, while it's coming in thick and fast here. I don't know if he's quite got the move done yet. He has now, and later on the brakes is the McLaren as they go down to turn 1. But surely the mediums will pull him through, and it will. So Larsen drops back. The McLaren's now 8 and 9. Last 2 runners in this race on track. Points, though, guaranteed for the pair of them. But a great move there from Yaya. Really read the situation well and came from a long way back into turn 14. Look at the line that Larsen took, and took full advantage of that. A great move there from the AlphaTauri as Larsen. A little wide, but for his teammate Blind behind, even worse, who just about keeps it out of the wall. He might have had a light scrape there. No visible damage on the front wing. I do believe we are running reduced here, so, to help keep those side pods and floor damage at bay, which really are race ending at this stage of the game. We'll see whether that adjusts, and obviously settings. Let me change going into the full-time league race, and we have a better picture of what these things do mean. But in the endurance race, when it's so long, you see what happens here. When we're on reduced, running full would be, let's say, pretty disastrous. So a good call there by everyone behind things, making those decisions. As Grenade now feeling the pressure from Domi. It won't be long until the Hungarian makes his move. If not this lap, definitely next lap, unless, of course, there is a problem for the hometown hero. And he has been pretty heroic so far this evening, with quite the redemption strip. He was second, he was down in about 15th, and he's back up to second.
Been a very up and down race for him. A very dynamic exchange of positions all throughout the 26 laps we've now, we're 25 laps we've officially raced here. A few of them safety car laps, of course. More than a few, but of course, Yayak. 4th position, hunting down Remco. It's a major train here to 5th, where Psycho sits in the Ferrari.
There's a bit of separation as well.
Yeah,
the grid.
I was looking at that. Yaya has a bit of a train formed behind him, and then there's another, so 2 separate trains here, and then Blind He really needs to do some work here, Unicorn. He has the soft compound tires, the fastest compound available, and he needs to hunt down Larson. He has a unique opportunity to do this because Larson, on those hard compound tires for 7 laps versus 3-lap-old softs, Blind surely should have the better tires at the minute. Of course, if he's struggling, if he's spinning, burning those tires up, that operating window is going to close massively. But that car of Larson sitting well with 4-door here, and, well, 4-door trying to do what he can to hold on to, yeah. There's a DRS train possibility for Blind on that soft compound.
Because Domi, that's late on the inside. A very, very bold move, and one that hasn't quite worked out there. He might have been able to get the switch back had he not been quite so close to the rear of Grenade there. But there was not a lot of room on the inside of 2, and I'm amazed that both drivers are still pointing in the right direction here. Domi really hungry for that P1. Hasn't worked out for him yet. He still needs to bide his time, wait, not let himself get eaten up by Remco Van Putten, and we know Remco will take full advantage of a slow overtake. Getting a position is one thing, but keeping it from a driver who gets a better sweep around the pair of you is very, very tricky. And with Remco and Yakak as well behind, he has had a great race. And like I said, I think this is the first time I've ever seen him here from memory. And it's been a very, very impressive debut, if that is the case. Psycho, 3-second penalty there for the Ferrari, who has been also having a pretty good redemption race here, up and down this grid. And he's up 6 places where he started 11th outside the top 10. A lot of positions gained for everyone. Grenade Goran as well, leading things 11 places up.
Well, he's not leading things anymore. Domi with a smooth move, pushing to the inside, getting the car rotated with a nice exit. And there's the Hungarian in lead of his home Grand Prix now. Grenade will be looking to push and catch up with Domi, but if Domi has the pace, he might just be able to pull away, and he's started to already. Not a lot of battery in it right now for Grenade versus Domi, and Remco Van Putten, however, is sitting on a massive reserve.
Yeah, it's great to see the battery management playing a role in this, and Domi's done well here to get past, and because it's before Sector 2, Remco will get trapped here a little bit. You'll see Domi, he's pushing right now through Sector 2, somewhere you wouldn't really push, but right now he knows if he can break DRS, that toe, that 1 second barrier out of turn 13 into 14, that's where the detection point is, and it's an important detection zone because it's the only detection zone, and he's just about got it here. It means that Grenade won't have DRS into turn 1 or into turn 2, and he does have it. There's the timing line. So Remco Van Putten, he will have it. So we will be able to go a little bit faster down the straights than both Grenade and Domi. So he will catch up a little bit here. We'll see whether he can break into the 1 second window of the Hungarian. The Dutchman is through on Grenade, fairly easily done. You have to expect it. It's now an Alfa Romeo 3-4 right now. A great evening for the pair of them. But Remco still has DRS. And he does just sneak under that 1 second window. Sneaks back out of it, though. It's going to be close to see whether he can hold that for a single lap. And then, of course, if he does stay under it, well, he'll be able to drag himself into Domi next time with DRS twice through into turn 1 and turn 2 yet again.
Very, very interesting exchange there. Of course, Yayak looking to get Grenade. He was pushing on the rear of Remco and Grenade. And now we've got a yellow flag. What's happened here? Psycho. Yellow flag here. He's had to cut the chicane. He has wing damage on the front end. The front right is looking like it's in a very bad shape right now. Missing an end
I mean, he's
there.
getting passed by everyone else who was behind him. Down into 9th place, and he's been having a bit of trouble with track limits as well. And most people have been able to keep themselves clean on that front. Looking at the positives here in terms of cleanliness, that has been something they have been doing. Remco able to stick with Domi as well. He used all of his battery though available to him last lap to do so. Domi's down to 20% though. The Alfa Romeo's exchange as Yakak goes through into P3, into the podium positions. Worth pointing out as well, Remco has a 5-second penalty that he will serve in the pit lane. So it won't be removed because he'll have to serve it. There's no way he makes the rest of these 40 laps without pitting again. Speaking of pit lanes, of course, Psycho in for his stop. 26-lap-old mediums. Wonder whether the crash was as a result of those old tires. Either way, though, a front wing change definitely necessary there. And we've got a few drivers approaching that. Domi's on the same age tires. They're 27 laps old now. Remco, Fordor, all on 21-lap-old Grenade, 29 laps on those tires. He's been on those tires since the start of the race. He's the only driver still on his original tires. And well, it's been an impressive race from him. Obviously falling back now since the safety car restart, but tire age may be helping him against Remco and Jakek there. And obviously Domi's brilliant pace we've seen here around the Hungaroring, but still a strong result. It won't be long, I think, until we see the first sort of regularly scheduled, so to speak, pit stop stream.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very soon when we... Oh, well, as we say it, Grenade, 29-lap-old mediums, Unicorn. He's on his way in. One of the Alfa Romeos, of course, pulling the trigger. Jayak. Third position, 22-lap-old mediums, 2 seconds the gap to Remco Van Putten right now. Remco holding half a second to Domi. Grenade, he's switching on another set of medium compound tires.
Yeah, the game suggested a two-stop, a soft, medium for the soft runners, of course, that started there. It didn't say a strategy for the mediums, but I imagine the strategy there would be medium, soft, just the reverse of it. Obviously, maybe you'd be able to pull off the medium hards, but I think the time you lose there on that harder compound tire, probably not worth it. The softs, though, seem to only be good according to the game for about 10 laps. A lot of the time, the game is a bit reserving in how many laps it can do, so maybe you could push that to about 15, depending on safety cars, of course. But right now, we're seeing about 30 laps seems to be the life of a medium compound. So again, Domi won't be too long into the pits either. Fresh mediums, we'll see what Grenade can do. They won't want him to undercut them, because obviously it seems that these two up at the front, and Jakek to an extension as well, seem to be a bit faster than Grenade, you know, especially if you take into account qualifying as well. But if he's got faster tires, they'll have to overtake him again, and that's not something they want. They've gone around again, but Domi needs to be careful as well, because his tires are older, so he has to time this right. Remco Van Putten, well, he could just time it whenever he wants, because he is on a different strategy. He started, you know, this race on the softs, as did Domi, but for Remco, it's a much more comfortable two-stop from here. Whereas Domi, he'll be able to do it as well, but Remco's tires at the end of the race will be fresher, and will that be the difference between a win and a loss? Got that 5-second penalty there as well, so maybe Jakes Larsen's out.
Oh,
He's
no.
crashed going into turn. How's he managed that? He's on the left-hand side going into turn 3. He's turned left into a right-hand corner, it looks like. He must have bounced off the right-hand wall. How is he... That's a very bizarre place to crash. I don't know if I've ever seen someone crash there.
I don't think I've seen anyone crash there either. So that is now our... Well, we have 8 drivers remaining in this race on the 32nd lap. The safety car has been deployed for what I believe is the 4th or 5th time now. Is it 4th? I think it's the 4th.
4th. I think 4th is right. You could count it 5th if you can include the VSC we got on lap 1 before the big crash. Turned into a safety car, but 4 full safety cars. I believe you're right in saying. And well, there goes the leaders. This is great news for Domi. Sort of good news. It's half good news for Remco Van Putten, because he gets the 5-second done under the safety car. The problem is, one of his rivals are going to get a pit stop when he's sitting there. There's Domi already on the fresh tires. He will retain the lead. Jak here will take P2 away from the Dutchman. Remco Van Putten, he's got the tires on now, and he's being held. I think... Oh, there's a little bit of lag there, I think. But he drops down to 4th place. Yaya up into 3rd. Has got onto the hards here. We've seen the softs last about 30 laps. And there's... What is that? My maths is failing me here, but I want to say 37 laps to go. I think I'm right in saying that.
I think you are.
So it'll be
yes.
a bit of a struggle, but they will be able to take those to the end, I think, with the safety car. Soft tires for Psycho. That's a bold choice. He had the opportunity to do some, you know, wild strategies earlier in the race. Didn't take them now, though. Onto some softs. We've seen them last about 10 laps. So he's definitely planning another pit stop here. So maybe trying to get a few places. Hope for another safety car, potentially. But right now, soft tires to the Ferrari. We'll see what he can do with it. He does have time penalties. A little word on those. You got 3 seconds for Blind, 6 seconds for Psycho. They're both for track limits warnings. So there'll be 6 infringements or more, 6 to 8 for Psycho, 3 to 5 for Blind, depending on how many they've got since that last penalty. But mediums for everyone, bar Yaya on the hards in 3rd and Psycho on the softs in 8th. They're the last runners we've got. We've got Domi leading things, Yakak in 2nd, Yaya in 3rd, Remco 4th, Grenade 5th, Ford or 6th, Blind 7th, Psycho in 8th. And they've all either gained positions or miraculously Remco Van Buren. He hasn't moved in this race. The biggest gainer, 4-door sedan, 14 places up. Well, Yakak, what's happened here?
Yeah,
it looks like it's Yaya into the pits. That's what's causing that.
Yeah, he's just gone in. And so now that will give him a fresh set of tires. Or it'll give him an opportunity to cycle tires here. Going onto the medium. 11 lap old set. Okay. Psycho as well is cycling to a previously used set of tires. We're already at that point, crazily enough, where you have to cycle used tires. That's how many times we've had a safety car providing that opportunity for these drivers.
I don't know if Yaya can go to the end on those. The chat's just had a little discussion as well. And I always do, sort of read the technical expertise of those in the chat. And estimating that 45 laps could be the limit on those tires. With that in mind, Yaya's going to be pushing it closely. If he wants to go to the end of those tires, I guess he didn't want the pace disadvantage of the hards. But he'll have the pace disadvantage anyway due to an 11-lap deficit on the age of the mediums. So I'm surprised to see him come in again and lose the track position, because there could have been crashes behind that he wouldn't have had to avoid potentially if he'd stayed ahead in 3rd place. But we'll see what happens here. It's an interesting choice in the AvaTauri, and I don't necessarily know it's the right one.
Very interesting scenario, without a doubt, and safety car now coming in.
Yeah, this time it'll be Domi leading the charge, the Hungarian at home. So far, it's been an up and down race, but right now, it's looking a bit like dreamland for him. P1. He would have been hoping for this after turn 1. He didn't get that. He got knocked down to 3rd. Went into the pits lap 1. Weaving a little bit here. Yakak runs into the back of him. Gets him a little tap. Luckily, no penalty.
Well,
I spoke too soon.
Oh, no.
The game just whacked him with it there right after the incident. Very late call. I don't think either driver will be impressed. And Remco Van Buren's had a great launch here. He might even get the Alfa Romeo down to turn 1. Both Alfa Romeos breaking late there. One looking to avoid being overtaken. The other looking to overtake Remco Van Buren. Psycho, well, he takes full advantage of his fresher tyres compared to Yaya. Blind, well, he dropped back, didn't he, on the race restart there. But I'm surprised that Yakak and Domi there got whacked with a penalty. That was not needed by the game. That was not a severe collision. They might be able to get that removed if they can't go to the end.
Yeah, that is very true. If they should come into the pit lane for whatever reason, another change of tires, perhaps they will be able to shave that 5-second off. 8 drivers remaining in this race. A very tight gap on grid right now, and some difference in tire strategy. Penalties playing a role as well for everyone except Remco, Grenade, and Yaya at this phase of the race.
Psycho looking at his teammate, and there's a pretty small window there. Yakak on Domi as well, but I don't know. We're going to see that overtake down into turn 1. I think it's more likely we see the Ferraris exchange, and all right now it's looking like neither overtake will happen. Psycho getting nice and close to his teammate. Again, no DRS yet. It's not been re-enabled after the 4th safety car that we've seen here. Bit of a gap forming as well. Fordor has dropped 1 second to Grenade in P4. But no overtakes here on lap 36. We are halfway through the race now. Through the chicane comes sector 2. Notoriously difficult to overtake through. We'll see it today. We'll see it tomorrow as well when we go here in real life. And
That's
Definitely
exactly
looking
it.
to be fireworks on track there, but second two, Chef. It's just, I'd say almost impossible unless there's a mistake.
It's very tough. Very tough and difficult to overtake in Hungary. Turn 1, of course,
Well,
the most
Domi, 3
ideal
seconds.
opportunity. I don't know what he did to take that. It looked like he might have just exceeded coming through the penultimate turn.
Well, he's been having a shaky time. He got 1 warning on lap 1, kept it clean. Then he got the 5-second time penalty on lap 34. He got a warning on 35, and now he's got the penalty plus a warning on lap 36. So Domi right now, he's been shaken, Striff. It seems that 5 seconds has just sort of got under his skin a little bit. Maybe annoyed him to the point where he hasn't been driving his best over the last couple of laps. He's a very experienced driver. You know, we've seen him, I believe, win a World Drivers' Championship, if I'm not mistaken, Tier 2 a couple of seasons ago. Got himself, you know, up into Tier 1 where he's looking to compete again next season, and he's a superb driver. Wants to make that transition to Will, and someone who's not quite having it.
No.
Yeah, grenade into the gravel.
That's not good for the Alpha Tower, even remotely. Fortunately, the front end looking fairly intact. No damage, as far as I can tell. Blind retiring on his own. And that has brought out another full safety car. And this has brought Domi straight into the pit lane. Did Yayak follow him in? No. Domi into the pit lane, getting rid of 5 seconds.
Softs.
Yeah, it's looking like soft.
I think he's cycling. I think he's cycling the tires, but getting the 5 seconds off.
Truly, he's
I imagine that's the play.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got enough faith, I think, in his ability. It depends, I think, on when this safety car comes in. We've caught the safety car now. And, well, do we get one full lap around, or do we have to go... It might come straight in. Can it come straight in?
I don't think it will. I don't know if it can, but I don't think it will, because Domi, if Domi thought that, I think he would take this outlap pretty slowly, just so he avoids, because he's going to need to come in again. He's not full throttling to catch up. I don't know if he'll be under Delta here, because we've caught it, so he'll just be able to catch the safety car, I think. But I imagine he's going to let it go around again, so that he can come back in. So the only way we could test this is if Domi caught up here, which he's going to sort of do anyway. So even if he wasn't under Delta, he's caught the queue.
Hasn't taken him long. And we're just going to have to see now, once we cross this sector split, what the story is. We're going to be going around, so... Domi surely into the pit lane, surely gonna get that set of softs switched back over. This might work out. If Yayak comes in here, this could work out for him if Domi comes in again. He's going to be staying out, and he's going to hold on to that 5 seconds. Nobody else is coming in. Not even
He's not
Domi.
coming in either.
All right, so Domi likes the softs.
This has to be a gamble, surely, for another safety car. Unless you can pull, you know, 15 laps on these under full racing conditions, he has to go back onto the mediums, surely. But he's back at the grid now. We've seen him carve his way through already on equal tires, even worse tires on some drivers. Now on fresh soft, he will just carve his way through like a hot knife through butter. You would imagine the front two are going to get a good launch here. Jakek and Remco, they've shown great pace. The two Ferraris, they've had their moments. They've had their moments of brilliance. They've had their moments that haven't been so brilliant. But both drivers now third and fourth. A potential podium for one of them, but the penalties might cost them. Yaya, 15 lap old mediums. We wonder whether he can go to the end. And Grenade there in 6th place. A lot of people in this race. There's only 7 left, but a lot of opportunity for everyone, almost, Jeff, to be on the podium as a result. But Domi Let's see where he can finish it up.
It certainly hasn't been boring by any means. It's been, well, we've had a lot of issues with some of the drivers. Everyone coming up to grip, knockwood, with Hungary, or coming up to grips, however you want to say it. But safety car now coming in. We've had a thrilling race with a lot of these drivers, especially at the start. We had a lot of wild battling, good overtaking, and we've seen it here. A lot of drivers doing what they can, utilizing that DRS. Now Yayak will lead us through to hopefully the last safety car restart of the scenario this evening, of the campaign.
Really slowing things down here ahead of Remco Van Putten, who is just not... He's not weaving. He is avoiding that Alfa Romeo at all costs. Doesn't want another 5-second penalty. Yakak still has it. And it's a good start for the Alfa Romeo. It's a good start for the Alpine. The Ferraris, we've seen them exchange like this already tonight. We'll see it whether it happens again here. It's late on the brakes for Psycho. And a great dive up the inside. Domi does a similar move on Grenade for P6. And there's a couple of exchanges into turn 1 already on the restart. Remco has closed the door a bit to Yakak. 4/10, 6/10 though after turn 2. Remco, a little bit of an uncharacteristic mistake, it would seem, from the Alpine there. Yaya getting past by Domi. It looked like he lifted off there. Didn't want to go side by side through turn 4. Domi knew what he was doing. Threatened the move. Yaya acknowledges the tyre difference. Smart driving there from the Alpha Tauri. Domi as well, playing an aggressive game and out of the chicane. We've said it's almost impossible to overtake here, but Domi... Look at this. That is absolutely sublime driving from the Hungarian. He is really having to work for this home race. Maybe a victory, a podium likely, it would seem. That 3-second time penalty, we'll see how that factors into things. Yakak's 5-second might give him a slither of hope. P2 right now is definitely on the cards, but it depends what his tire situation is, because he's on these softs that won't go to the end at all. He'll have to pit again for presumably mediums. Maybe another set of softs if he has the tire management nailed down already. Remco Van Putten threatening Yakak into turn 1. Nothing changing there, but Domi already back into the podium positions. This is a brilliant drive from Domi. Can he keep it up though, Jeff?
Well, these softs, I think, are his only limitation right now, Unicorn. He's got these softs, and we know they can degrade at a very rapid rate. He's within 1.3 of Remco Van Putten. Remco holding Yayak well. Penalties in the equation for Yayak, but they're in it for Domi also. And for a few drivers now on the grid, we've got 4 out of 7 drivers with penalties. Psycho's had an issue. 4-door is going to try and rein him in. And look at the drop for Psycho on the rear of Domi now. Nearly 2 seconds already for this Ferrari. Now, Domi, however, look at the pace of these softs. We saw him 1.3 seconds out on the rear of Remco. It's nearly half a second now, and he's charging now through out of Sector 2 with a purple Sector 2 on these softs. And who could have thought otherwise? The Hungarian's on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. He is really blasting through this. And it's also worth noting, Remco Van Putten right now, he's playing this very calm. He doesn't seem phased. He is reserving battery. He's pushing a little bit now. As fastest lap cycles, there are 16.6 from Domi there. Absolutely blistering pace. But Remco, not too concerned about things. He knows that he's not going to be able to fight Domi with this tire advantage. He might put up a classic Remco Van Putten defense here into turn 2 if Domi tries something. But he knows that Sector 2, very, very tricky. Maybe we see Domi go for another chicane again. I don't think he'll try that on Remco. These two drivers have come together multiple times on the track. They know what each other are going to do. They know each other are capable of. And they know each other's driving styles. So I don't think we're going to see that. I think maybe turn 12 would be the place if I was Domi, where he pulled the trigger. Try and get ahead of Remco. Get the DRS on Yakak for P1 and take that. Start trying to extend your lead out of turn 3 into 4 at the start of lap 43. That's how I would play my cards if I was Domi. But Remco's dropping here to Yakak. He might be trying to avoid Domi getting DRS here. Maybe playing a little bit of a game here. It's going to be close. I think Domi will get DRS, whether it's on Remco or Yakak, and it will be on Remco. So Remco, he needs to make sure he stays within that 1 second window, and he does. And he has just enough battery to just push there. He's still got half of it left in the tank, as does Domi. But here we go. What is the exchange going to be? Remco's too far back on Yakak to do anything about P1. But does Domi get anything here? 4-door sedans out of the race, but Domi's looking for P2 into turn 1, I should say. Doesn't find it. Remco just keeping him at bay, and the DRS down into turn 2. The Dutchman.
Domi!
Oh, it was a late move for him. Domi's gone super deep there, and he's lucky to have avoided going into the rear of the Alpine. Some brilliant driving there to avoid it. I think he was expecting Remco to go for the move on Yakak, but no commitment there from the Dutchman. As we go down to 6 racers, and it's lucky we don't have another safety car, because this battling at the front shift is absolutely brilliant.
It is. It really is giving us a lot of entertainment right now, a lot of intensity, a lot of action. Yayak in first position, of course. 5 seconds, the penalty for the Alfa Romeo leading this race right now. We're on the 43rd lap of contention. 6 racers left in contention. Remco van Putten, the Dutchman, looking for that lead of the race. He has no penalties, but he's got the hometown man, Domi, in the Mercedes as well, pushing on the soft compound tires. But here's the thing. How long are these tires for Domi gonna give him that razor sharp edge, Unicorn? 4 laps now, about to be 5. Here we go. Here's the push into turn 1. Remco very tight to the rear of Yayak. He's sending it. He's got the battery in utilization, and what a move, and what a late move on the brakes for the Dutchman. Yayak with a fantastic exit. He's going to utilize a little bit of that battery, but not a lot left in it for the Alfa Romeo. Where's Domi? He's on the inside of turn 2. What a battle we're having between these two. The Alfa Romeo. There's a spin. No, Domi and Yayak, they've come together coming out of turn 3. Oh my god, Psycho has gone through into second position. Yaya follows through into third. Grenade into fourth, and Domi and Yayak have been collected. However, they are still in this race. Oh my, albeit without any front wings.
Yes, Jeff, I'm surprised to hear you said I really thought at least one of them was going to retire there, but miraculously, both cars are still in it. And it begs the question, how did we have 14 retirements when these two are still driving? Like you say, no front wings on either car, and for Domi, well, that is surely race over. They're too far back now, unless we get, I think, a 6th safety car. It's not going to happen. But that was, a racing incident. It was so tough between the two of them. Hopefully that, they could take that on the chin, speak to each other amicably after the race, obviously into the pits for the pair of them. Domi going very wide, nearly hitting the pit wall on entry there. Grenade Goran on the rear of Yaya looking for P3, but my goodness, as he slides out of turn 1, Yaya looks in great place now to get a position. Yak retires in the pit lane. You hate to see that so long into the race, and now we go down to just 5 drivers, and it's still going to be a top 5 for Domi. You'd think at this stage of the race, something like this would really throw you off, but a top 5 finish, well, it's miraculous for Domi, but he won't be happy with it, which is really quite bizarre. I imagine he's hoping for a podium, but top 5 are guaranteed for all of the drivers left in the session, unless, of course, they get DSQ'd, which, fingers crossed, that doesn't happen. We haven't seen that yet, and hopefully we don't, but my goodness, a very, very dramatic race. We've still got 25 laps to go. Fingers crossed we can keep the drivers we have that are still in this race, but a huge collision there. It didn't retire either of them on track. It does take Yakak from us to retire in the pit lane. It's only 35 seconds down. We'll see whether he can do anything to claw that back. He's gone on to another set of softs and aims to do so, but they won't go to the end, so tough to take from the Hungarian. Maybe, again, just going for another fastest lap. I do believe it's already in his hands. A 16.6, the closest driver left on track is a 17.2.6. One from Remco. Psycho, a 17.288, though, not far behind in that Ferrari in that respect. But Domi, you have to say, pretty much done and dusted on that extra point. But a dramatic race, Jeff, and right now, only one real battle on track. Yaya versus Grenade Goran for that 3rd place.
Yeah, and it's a battle where penalties play a factor as well. Grenade with 3 seconds, but half a second the gap for 3rd right now. And podium on track, albeit, would be fantastic for Grenade. And he has been, well, it's been such an up and down race, I have to say, for pretty well the entirety of this grid. When we look at the drivers remaining in the session, Remco van Putten is 3 positions up from where he began this campaign. Psycho is up 9. Yeah, He's made it up 13 positions into third place at the minute, and we've got Grenade up 8. Domi, unfortunate as it is the only driver remaining in the 5 racers on track who has actually lost positions in this campaign.
Well, like I said, P5, it's not a bad finish by any stretch of the imagination, but if that is how it ends for Domi, he will be annoyed with himself for that. And it's, a little bit surprising, you could say, but that is what, it is for the Hungarian. He came into this with high hopes. He came into it with a lot of pace as well. P2 on the grid, down to P5 now. He's the only driver to have lost places, and that's going to sting. That's going to sting around your home Grand Prix. Everyone wants to do well. And for Domi, it just hasn't been the case. There's another fastest lap, though. A 1:16.4. He is pushing, but I don't think it's going to be able to do anything here unless, of course, we see another, full course yellow, whether it be in the form of VSC or a full safety car. If we can still have another one, we might have used it. They might have packed up and gone home. Enough is enough for them, depending on what the limitations are in this game to how many you can have in a singular race. Grenade still looking at Yaya. Hasn't been able to pull the trigger there. Penalty situation. 3 seconds for both Grenade and Domi. 6 seconds for Psycho. And as it stands, that would promote Yaya. And it would also promote Grenade as well onto the podium. But again, still plenty of laps for that to change. 22 to go.
22 laps to go, and it's nothing but intensity for these two drivers. Yaya and Grenade very tight through into turn 1 right now. Grenade keeping that pressure on, penalty or no penalty. It's an on-track duel, and it's an on-track duel that could very well cost Yaya some time to Psycho ahead. Psycho with 6 seconds in penalties. Realistically, this could very well be a fight for second and third position. Drivers have quite some time to go in this endurance campaign. We call it the endurance campaign for a few reasons, but today, of course, the main reason is that we've got 15 drivers out of contention on the 48th lap. Everyone coming up to grips, well, we'll say, with the circuit today. Well, 5 drivers at the very least getting the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, this is great practice for these 5 drivers, particularly now, Yaya and Grenade, who will be having a little bit of, action, but battery management. We've seen, Remco's doing a bit of that right now. Psycho's having to push a bit. And all of this will be, they won't be thinking about it, I shouldn't think, in terms of, oh, this is great practice. Right now, they're just focused on driving the car, but it is good practice. And on a new game, a new handling model, testing yourself under these stressful environments in that competitive place. Obviously, like I say, it's a bit spread out now. Domi, Remco, Psycho, they won't be getting much out of this anymore. It's just, lap after lap, keeping it consistent now, getting that groove, finding it and getting it to the end. But for all of these drivers who have had extended periods of fighting side by side, even Yakak and Domi there through turn 3, they will have found something, they will have learned something from that other people won't have done in this race, because they had that experience. They got those laps in under their belts. So going into the fresh season 5, when that restarts, all of that culminates into experience that other drivers will not have. And for the 15 drivers now that are in this race, as Psycho picks up another 3-second time, that's 9 now for him. He is filling a gap, but can he build another 3 seconds on top of the 6 he already had to extend? He's got it to 4.4. He needs to make it 9 now, as there's a problem. It's Domi. He's out. We go down to 4.
I made the joke earlier, but we're here. Monaco 2.0 Unicorn.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we said at the end of the race. It's not a race that anyone but 3 drivers wants to remember. And, well, this one is shaping up, like you say, in the same way.
All comes down to Grenade and Yaya now for the action as they're continuing the battle. Grenade has the better tires by a significant margin, as does Psycho over on, well, Yaya. But here's the thing, right? You have Psycho with that 9 seconds in penalties. 9 seconds gets Grenade and Yaya on the podium, even with Grenade and having that 3-second penalty that he's holding on to.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that penalties are still going to play a role in the end game here, given that there's
Yeah.
only 4 drivers.
Yeah. If you screw up, listen. If you make a mistake at this phase of a race, right, where you're going to be, look, you are in 4th position, 3rd, you're in a podium, you have a race win if you're Remco Van Putten right now. Things are very easy, but of course, you need to finish the race. And right now we have Grenade looking to the inside of Yaya. He thinks better of it in the Alfa Romeo through turn 1 on 51. But of course, you need to really finish the race and get the points. If you screw up now, Remco, Psycho, Yaya, you know, you've got 25, 18, 15 points, what have you, and you drop the ball, oh, does that hurt? Because the stats are tracked.
Absolutely, and also, it's a huge time sink at this point. We've been live now for, you know, what is it, probably almost 2 hours. We started just after 10 p.m. my time, and it's now coming out to midnight, and when you put 2 hours in just to retire in the last, 20 laps of a race, that is something you don't want to be doing. I imagine Domi right now is kicking himself. He's in the chat now, and Domi, it was a great run, but obviously came to one unfortunate premature end. But there's 4 drivers now, and for the likes of Yaya and Remco, and to some extent Psycho as well, or for Remco in particular, this is the best opportunity.
Oh!
Goes round.
Well, we were just speaking about what you would feel like if you made a mistake, and Grenade, albeit he's still in the race, no longer has any front wing on that car, and it makes you ask yourself about consistency. The reason I say it makes you ask yourself about consistency is not only because, hey, Grenade spun, but when you think about the fact that he is in this race, you look at this grid, you look at this time in tower, you've got 16 drivers, of course, out of contention. Many of those, and I'll count for you if you like, due to spins on their own, loss of traction, some minor, some major, out of the race. Now Grenade, 4th position, loses the entirety of his front wing, and he manages to finish the race. So there's a lot of questions being asked now, especially if you're a driver, for starters. Was it my fault, or was it potentially an element of RNG or what have you? So now there's a little bit to look at here. But Grenade, I imagine, even though he's missing the entirety of his front end, a large sigh of relief, Unicorn.
Yeah, the fact that he's still in this race is, great for him. But like you're saying that you got to look at how did you retire that Grenade? Maybe you could put it down to dirty air. I see no other reason other than just a little bit too eager on the throttle pedal there, coming out of the final corner. And the biggest problem for him is he's had to do that entire lap because of where he crashed without a front wing. Would have cost him less time anywhere else on track to crash and lose a front wing, but there, it's not done him particularly well. For everyone else in this race now, we were talking about what it means to be in this situation. Well, it's a free podium, pretty much. Like you said, the stats are tracked, so you get a podium under your name in the Endurance Series. If you just keep it pointing in the right direction, Grenade goes to the softs, gets a new front wing, but he is so far off that anyone here, they could probably even spin and still get the podium. But they don't want to take that risk. Just get to the end now. Tires, Yaya probably has to pit again. And if I was Yaya, I think I would pit now. Because those tires surely are not making it to the end of this race. Some people said 45 laps were possible. We haven't seen what's possible on the tires. If that's the case, you'd have to do about 4 more than the predicted thing. But if he pits now, he won't lose the position behind. He will sort of guarantee cement 3rd place. He could also wait a little longer and go into some softs. Maybe snag himself fastest lap. He was feeling confident. Obviously, it was set by the man who qualified P2, and that would be hard to steal away from the Hungarian. But there's options on the table, and it's a management game from this point forward, and just a balancing act to make sure you make it to that checkered flag.
Oh, Remco Psycho, and I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's a huge race right now. Remco Psycho, yeah. they can make mistakes just as well with the amount of time left here. Grenade isn't out of it yet. I think that there is still good potential given what we've seen with degradation, these drivers, how they've been using the curbs, how they've been using the track. I think there's still something to see here. Remco, Psycho, Psycho and Yaya in themselves. Of course, Psycho needs to build a gap to that driver in third. He'll lose that second position. There's still that element. 9 seconds of penalties for Psycho.
Yeah, and it's a big penalty, and that could still, we mentioned it was a free podium for the 3 drivers on the top right now, with Grenade being so far down. But for Psycho and Yaya, it's still not decided where they'll finish on that podium, provided that they keep going and make it to the end and don't have any major issues. Right now, Yaya's not being dropped as quickly as Psycho would probably be liking. The thing is, those tires are a lot older, 8 laps compared to Psycho's, 23 laps on the Ferrari, 31 on the other Tauri. We saw people wanting to pit about 30 laps in for the medium tires. That seemed to be the most idyllic strategy. If you were going to do it, 30 laps on 2 sets of mediums, 10 lap on a set of softs. So that seemed to be as Grenade. Well, he pulls off fastest lap of the race. So there is an extra point there. And does that give Yaya the incentive that he knows, can I beat that lap time? The guy behind's just done it. I've fought with him a little bit during this race. He's finishing behind me, whatever I do. Do I go up onto some softs and try and get that extra point? Or does he stick with Psycho, hope his tires last good enough to keep himself in that top line? Well, there's the answer. He's coming straight into the pit lane. And the other Tauri, is it softs? I imagine it would be. It would be a huge surprise to me if he went on to anything else.
I'd be shocked. I would absolutely be shocked if he went on to anything other than softs, and of course there they are, and they are a fresh set, of course, and that will be massive for him. Grenade absolutely nowhere near the AlphaTauri. It's just a free pit stop, as you mentioned, and look at this now. So yeah, we'll have to see if he has what it takes in order to really get that fastest lap away from Grenade. Does he have that pace? Now, what I think would have been maybe better to do here is extend a bit to get that potential better track, less fuel in your car, and then you can really guarantee that you get it. Now he's doing it very close to Grenade here. There's a potential that he might burn his tires before he gets the chance to, outdo Grenade. Of course, he is in third. He's going to be getting more points than Grenade regardless. But if it's me, I would have extended a little bit more if I was yeah. Wait to jump onto that fresh set. Wait until I had less fuel in the car and burn it when the track's got a little bit more rubberization going on.
Yeah, I think you've got it right there. He has to go for it, but there's an opportune time. You really don't want to do more than 1 or 2 runs to try and steal that away, because you're not going to have time to charge up the battery again. So right now, 67%. I'd probably want to get it a lot closer, although it looks like he might be going for it now.
Yeah,
as the tires are at their freshest. So we'll see whether he can do it. If he gets into the 115s, it would be the first time we see it this race. Everything else is in the 116s. I think it was a 116 flat from Grenade there. It was a 116.028. So really, it needs to be a 115.9 or faster. Obviously, he could sneak under in the 116s, but we'll see what the IR has here to offer us. And on the gap between them, 23 seconds, 22 and a half ahead to Psycho. And Psycho, this will be a bit of a sigh of relief for him in the Ferrari. He's got 9 seconds of penalties. This gives him the gap ahead. I don't know whether Yaya can catch. I feel like the tires would die out just before he needs them to. He's also not pushing as hard as I would have expected someone trying to steal fastest lap. I'd expect battery utilization all the way through parts there. Still gets purple sector 2 as he comes down into turn 12. I'd expect battery utilization there as well. Doesn't do it. Maybe doesn't want to speed too much into turn 13 to go wide. Again, doesn't accelerate out of turn 13 with the battery. So I am surprised that he used as little battery there as he did. I would have expected more, but it was enough by a huge margin. A 115.434, 6 tenths faster than Grenade's lap. So, well, yeah. I think he could have gone faster with a bit more battery usage, but he didn't need to. And I think he's just reserving that in the event that there is another battle with someone at some point in this race. Seems unlikely, but he did catch a lot to Psycho. He needs to catch 11 seconds. He caught 2 seconds on that lap alone, obviously with a lot of battery usage and probably a lot of tire wear as well. But it might still be possible for him, especially if Psycho picked up another penalty.
Definitely, Psycho right now, as those tires begin to wear even worse than the 26 laps that he's had them for. He could very well extend, he could very well cut, he could have issues. Remco just the same. These soft runners now with the better tires at the minute I say, because they can wear out very quickly. But Psycho now, of course, 5.2 on the rear of Remco.
And as we said, that Psycho picked up a warning, Jeff.
That's not what you want to be doing. How many warnings from a penalty is our Ferrari friend in second position here? Because, well, you need 3 warnings essentially to form up a penalty.
That was his first since the last one, it would seem, but he's treading a fine line with his rate of picking them up. It would not be a surprise to see him get 2 more in 11 laps. So, for Yaya, if he can get within 12 seconds, which right now at the pace he is putting down is possible. It's going to be close between the two of them. I think Yaya's played this very well. He needs to avoid getting a penalty as well, though. It's all well and good if Psycho gets another one. It's no use to Yaya if he picks one of his own. So we'll see what happens, but they need to be careful here in the last few laps. We are on lap 59. It's going to be in lap 60 very, very soon.
That gap is really dropping between Yaya and Psycho here, to a point where I'm wondering if there's going to be a significant cliff for these mediums versus softs that allows Yaya to get into a threatening position.
We haven't really seen the mediums tested to their limits. We've had the call that apparently they can do 45 laps. That's what chat predicts is the longest lifespan. We don't see this often. How many people have done a 100% Hungarian Grand Prix in this new game? So the data isn't really there. We don't know really what's possible. We have our estimations, but in this race we haven't really seen anyone go over 30. Psycho is going to go to 38 by the end of the race, and like you said, there's a significant cliff there as Yaya pretty much goes down to empty on the battery, 6% left in the tank for the AlphaTauri. But Psycho getting caught quickly here. And again, if he picks up another penalty, could be game over. It's all going to be down to the last few laps, the last few warnings as well. I'm going Van Putin right now. He's used a bit of battery in the last few laps as well. I think it's dropped down. He was about 100. To be honest, earlier on, feeling very comfortable. Now he's pushed a bit more, and he's pushing again here. Maybe he thinks he can swoop him with fastest lap here. It was a 1:17.7 though, so I think he'd be far from it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
So I don't quite know the battery utilization there, but Remco's an experienced driver. He knows what he's doing.
Most of the grid today, experienced drivers. Learning experiences for the good majority. 4 drivers remaining here on the 61st lap. Thank you to everybody who has joined us through this campaign here so far. My name is Striffy. I'm here from Canada. Joining me, of course, well, Unicorn from the UK, as always. It's Remco Van Putten, Psycho, Yaya, as well as Grenade for the final 4 drivers here. And of course, we'll be here following the Formula One World Championship with an endurance race every Formula One weekend. And as this weekend is the Hungarian Grand Prix, well, we just could not wait for tomorrow's racing action. We like to make sure we get ourselves a little bit of an exhibition in ahead of time. And well, I certainly hope the World Championship round tomorrow does not end up like our rendition. However, I imagine tomorrow's race nonetheless is going to be just as exciting. If not, well, I imagine it's going to be twice as exciting.
I think the drama levels are certainly going to be there. That's for sure. We've seen it boiling up over the last 2 weeks with what happened in Silverstone lap 1. Qualifying today, there was already a few sparks flying. And, well, the race tomorrow, I imagine it would continue into tomorrow's race, especially on lap 1, given the softs versus the mediums there. We've got the softs versus the mediums here as well, so some parallels can be drawn, but I hope we see tomorrow a few more cars reach the checkered flag. Because right now we have a maximum of 4 finishers, and even then there's still 8 laps to go. And last time we had this, we expected everyone who wanted to retire on that point, and we had one more shift. If you remember back to Monaco, we keep bringing it up, even though we don't really want to. But it can happen, and it very well could.
I remember that race. I try not to remember that race. I remember bits and pieces of it. But of course, I remember, well, we've had an issue now. Psycho has had a spin in the sector 2 and 3 split in the straight, it would seem, coming out of turn 11. And that is not what you want to be doing, because guess what? Guess what, Unicorn? We talked about it earlier. I mentioned it, but Yaya is now in for second position in this race, and Psycho's on his way in.
Well, he's got no front wing. He has to come in. Again,
I've been trying to get a look. I haven't been able to get a look.
We don't see the mediums go over 30 laps, it would seem. But yeah, no front wing on that car. He will be able to go for stops. There goes Yaya straight up into P2. Grenade Goran as well. He won't reach the Ferrari. I don't even think he's going to be close enough to take advantage of the penalty either, because he's got 6 seconds of his own. Now, Remco Van Puren is the only one who's potentially going to take these mediums above what we've experienced so far, above the recommended threshold for the game. The game suggests about 30 laps. Everyone who's got to 30 laps, it's like the Bermuda Triangle. Anyone who goes into that area doesn't seem to come out. Remco, though, well, if there's anyone who could do it in this race, it seems that he would be the man. The Dutchman has been utterly dominant for the last half of this race, ever since the likes of Domi had his incident and Yakak. We'll see what he could do in the last 7 laps. 10% of the race to go.
One thing about Remco, you mentioned how if anyone can do it, he could do it on the tires. If I do recall correctly, and you will be my fact checker on this, because if I'm not mistaken, I was with you for this. He might have just been the first driver we saw to do a one-stop soft medium around Hanoi. Way back in Vietnam. Which at the time, if I'm not mistaken, was thought to be undoable, and he definitely proved us wrong. I don't remember where he finished, but he managed to do it without, well, shredding the tire to oblivion.
Well, that is a long stretch. I don't remember. I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember, and I can't bring up the stats quickly enough.
I'm gonna find.
I can't bring up the stats quickly enough. But if there's anyone, Remco Van Puren, he is someone who management is something that is part of his repertoire. He knows how to manage the battery, how to manage the tires, how to manage a rival car on the track. Doesn't always end the best way for him or the other driver, but there's a lot of pace there. There's a lot of skill. There's a lot. Remco knows how to play the mind games in the F1 races that we host, whether it be in 2020, 2021, even all the way back, 2019. I wasn't here, but I imagine he has remained the same as a driver. He just knows, even when he's behind, he will just put his car where the other drivers' proximity areas sure as hell will be representing him. They might not be able to see him, but they'll feel his presence. And everyone on this racetrack will have felt his presence tonight. He has been absolutely just brilliant in the things. He's got his battery back up to full here. He has been managing it well. Yaya's down to 11%, 9%. Psycho down in 3rd right now. Unlikely we see him finish higher than that. Grenade, not really a threat with the older soft tires. They'll be feeling very, very worn when he gets to the end of things. But Remco is just such a well-rounded driver. Still, obviously, like everyone, has weaknesses, and you could point them out, and the drivers he goes up against week after week will know that. But he is just such a well-rounded driver. He is a very quick driver, and he is always exciting to watch.
Well,
and that's something you can't really. For us, Strift, that is someone we love to watch. If they're as exciting as it is.
Yeah, truly. And one thing I will bring up, I've done my due diligence, as it were. Remco Van Putten, season 3. It was season 3. That's how far back I went. August 6th, 2020 MRL Tier 1 Season 3 for Hanoi. Remco van Putten did finish that race. Not only did he finish it, he won the race on a one-stop strategy. He was the only driver in the entirety of the grid to do so. And it was a soft-medium strategy for the driver. He qualified on pole that day at 133.349 on the softs. What a drive. And here we are seeing him with the consistency that takes, well, that you need, as we've seen here in Hungary today, to collect a win after, well, we aren't there yet, but we're looking like we're going to see it.
Would be an utter shock, Striff, if Remco doesn't win this race. If Remco doesn't win this race, I don't understand. This would be completely outrageous, to say the very least. And also, congratulations. That was an excellent find. Let's go back to season 3 in about a minute. That was some real quick digging in the archives.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But Remco van Putten, he's made it 3 laps into the dreaded 30-lap zone on those medium tires. He's got 3 laps to go. People in the chat have shown the word puncture. He's just slid a little coming out of turn 1. I think they're getting to him, but I think he's just bringing it home now. He's not using any battery. He doesn't want to push this car any further than it has to go. He knows what's on the line here.
You look at him through the turns and you try to maybe pick up the rotation of the wheels here, and I saw it through turn 1, that front right, or excuse me, in that case it would have been, yeah, front right, just doesn't want to turn through certain hard braking zones. Well, he's nearing a very, very long push now, as we've mentioned multiple times on these tires, and the last thing he wants is a puncture. However, albeit with a puncture, I think he may even just stretch himself to capture second position due to the penalties of Psycho should Remco have to come in capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, a couple of laps left now for him. 3, including the one he's on now as he crosses the line. And, well, he's been doing just a little bit of burn on the battery there, just to keep everyone at bay, just to make sure he's got it where it counts. But he knows that he's not have to throw this away. And that is it. It's a waiting game now, not just for us to see what happens, but for the drivers. They just want to bring it home right now. I imagine if you asked each and every driver if they would accept it to finish now, they would probably say yes, because for them, nothing really can change. And the risk of it being them that makes the mistakes if something does change is quite high. So with the exception of Psycho, maybe, hey, but even then, a small spin for him would cost him the position to grenade. Even if he didn't lose it on track, the 3-second gap might be caught up there in terms of the penalties. So everyone right now, they'll be tired, because this has taken, you know, as always, it's an endurance series for a reason. 2 hours or thereabouts of driving, because they do qualifying directly before. They'll probably have warmed up. A lot of them do practice before as well.
Yeah.
So they could have been driving for 3 hours right now, pretty much straight, and that's quite the feat. And obviously you can see it there on the timing tower that not everyone has had the same sort of success that you could say that all 4 of these drivers have had. The fact that they've got this far. Remco now on the penultimate lap, but it has been a tough struggle, and it's, you know, still early days in the game. You know, just out over 2 weeks now, I think it's been out, because, well, yeah, it would have been just over 2 weeks, given that the 2 weeks yesterday, it would have come out.
2 weeks officially yesterday. Remco pushing 30. He's on his 36th lap right now, and the key factor here is that he himself is not utilizing any of his battery. It's the auto deployment that is utilizing any of his battery right now. He's not using any battery. Of course, he doesn't need to, and he most definitely shouldn't, given the tire strategy and the tire saving that needs to come through for him right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the management, like I said, is part of his game, and it's one of the strongest aspects of it. So I imagine now he'll just be, I would say, he's not burning a battery, because he's not necessarily afraid of the spin, but he's just very fully aware of it. This has been the only place, this long start-finish straight, where he's dared burn any of it off. Because he doesn't want that tire to pop. He doesn't want to spin into a corner because he's going too fast. So he's just managing it now. Last lap. He has got 12 corners to go. He's burning a bit more there. He's been a bit bolder on this final lap.
He wants to get it over with. Finally, the final lap has come for the Dutchman, and he says, "Okay, let's push. It's time to finish the race." And now he's coming through into the chicane. You can see he's just trying to get rid of his battery now. Through sector 2, just dabbing that overtake button. And of course, 10 seconds to the rear of him is Yaya in second position. The AlphaTauri coming through the chicane now. Psycho just coming through into turn 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, Grenade's done just enough to not get himself lapped here by Remco van Buren. He crosses onto the final lap, so he will finish all 70 laps of the race. And he'll be happy about that. But for one man, those 70 laps have gone a lot faster. He's even slowing down on the line. He does a little burnout that's actually banned by the FIA, but I think we'll allow it, given that he got to the end of this one. Remco van Buren wins 37 laps on the mediums at the end there. Yaya in second place. He'll be happy with that one. It's been quite the drive from him. 14 places gained for the AlphaTauri since the start of it. And like you said, way back near the start of this race, Shift. But in order to finish first you had to finish. It's not quite first, but finishing here is giving Yaya an absolutely extraordinary finish considering where he started. Psycho, not the greatest race he'll ever had. He won't look back on this too fondly, but at the same time, it's a podium for the Ferrari. 9 seconds of penalties. He also does one of these little burnouts across the line as a celebration on the podium. And Grenade Goran in the Alfa Romeo. It was a great drive from him. Both he and Psycho up 8 places from where they started this race. Both from outside of the points. Not by much, but just outside the points. He's pushed all of his battery out of this one. I think he just got fastest lap as well, Striff.
I think you're right. I think he did get that right at the end, which will be a nice thing to finish the race with. After what a campaign, 70 laps around the Hungaroring. Remco van Putten, the Dutchman, with the race win, with the long haul on the mediums. What a drive, what a race, what a campaign. 16 retirements in this campaign. Not the most ideal of races for a good majority of the drivers, but a very good race for this man and the men that join him on the podium, and with the points around the 11th round now of the endurance race, the Hungarian Grand Prix edition. There he is, Remco, from 4th to 1st. 16th to 2nd for Yaya, and it's 11th to 3rd for Psycho, with Grenade from 12th to 4th, with the remaining grid not being classified. And I imagine that lobby round out pretty quick. I didn't even see the end of the classification there. Hopefully we got some replays from the drivers, but that is going to wrap up the Hungarian Grand Prix. I don't know if we're going to be having any interviews.
Don't see anyone waiting for any.
Well,
Remco van Putten, very atypical not to see him in the commentary booth after a race. Plenty of podiums in APAC division. I don't think I got to interview him once, but it's a little bit unfortunate. I'm sure you have a lot to say about that one, given what we've just seen, the 70-lap ordeal for the 4 drivers that finished it. But it was, a tough, long race. Obviously, gutting for the likes of, Domi. It was on for such a good finish in his home race. It just all came crumbling down at the end there for the Hungarian, but still, dramatics, Jeff, I think is the word you could definitely bring on for that one.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one. I do believe we have an interview now joining us in the commentary booth. It is going to be Psycho. What a campaign around Hungary this evening. How are you feeling? What a race. Talk us through it.
What a race. Oh my god, there's so much drama. I felt like it got a lot more exciting towards like the middle and end of the race. There was always something to like keep in mind on, like save my tires, save my ERS, what kind of gap I need to pull, and especially when I had that 9-second penalty, I needed to pull some sort of gap. And then when Domi and with Jack crashed into the other guy, I felt sad for him because it was Hungary, it's his home race. He had a good shot to win that, but I'll take the podium position. Yeah, it was a lot with just trying to maintain a gap and secure the podium. And kind of sad that I didn't get P2, but I'll take the third place.
Yeah, penalties in this race, a little bit of your Achilles heel throughout at certain points when we were looking at the intervals and looking at the timings. Talk us through just driving. A lot of the viewers, I imagine, they want to know what it was like on track. What was it like with the setup, with the grip today on the tires, the various compounds? Because we saw the entirety of the safety cars utilized in this campaign. Just talk us through, what was it like on track? Just the track in itself, handling on Hungary, let's just say, in comparison to the 2020.
Let's say it's comparison to 2020, I feel like this track is more smoothed out, but it's definitely still like a hazard track. It's very similar to Monaco. You have to watch where you're going, which curbs you're hitting, because as soon as you hit that curb, you instantly just spin off, and it costs you a lot. But the thing with Monaco is with no walls, as they say, you just get back in. But it's very hard to overtake as well. You got to manage your ERS. It's very heavy on ERS, and with everyone trying to overtake as well, and all those safety cars as well, and the entire strategy, it's pretty hard out there, I can tell you that. And especially with those track limits, there's a lot of extending and warnings, as you can see. So props to Remco and Yaya not getting a penalty. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was a very, very long campaign, I imagine, for them trying to minimize their extensions, etc. Unicorn, of course, Psycho. Unicorn, do you have any questions for a podium finisher in Psycho tonight after that amazing, very long endurance campaign?
Yeah, I mean, Psycho, you mentioned it there. There was a lot of management in the aspects, obviously tires, ERS and stuff, but also just coming into this one, obviously the game is still very fresh, and Hungary's curbs, you mentioned the new surface a little bit more. Do you think, was that in your mind, practicing for this one? The curbs, they were hard in the last one. I imagine it's been the downfall of quite some people here tonight. How much of a focus was it, especially on old tires, to just stay off of them? How much of your, racing line was just avoid the curbs?
It was basically priority. Like, if you went on the curb, you lose so much time, and time here is so valuable. And even in endurance race, we have so many laps to catch up. It's really hard with all these curbs and this management. And especially you have to be careful for overextending for track limits. There's, turn 4, turn 11. Definitely those curbs are like easily to overextend and get a penalty. And with some curbs where you just mount on them and you just lose so much time. And you gotta take care of everyone around you. ERS, yeah, it's compared to the old game, I would say it's more smoother now, but it doesn't help that much, to be honest. It's still a hard track to manage, and I'm proud of myself to get a podium and even finish in this race, to be honest. So I feel like I did good today, definitely. But just a pat in the back, and we just move on.
Yeah, for sure. You should be happy, Psycho. A huge
Definitely.
drive, just getting to the end of this one. It's worth the congratulations to finish on the podium as well. Again, just a huge achievement. Congratulations. And I'm sure, fills you with a little bit of confidence moving into, other races in the new game. But Psycho, congratulations. And thank you as always for taking the time for an interview afterwards.
Thanks for the commentating. Yeah, must have been hard for you guys, for the 4 drivers, I guess. But you guys did best. You guys did good.
Thank you very much, Psycho. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Unicorn, that wraps up another very unique campaign in what we've had for now 11 rounds of our endurance series in the F1 2020 and 2021 games. Wow, just a crazy, crazy campaign. And now, of course, we'll be a few weeks off before we head, of course, to our next campaign for the 12th round. But what a race. What a race. And, of course, thank you so much to you for commentating with me for this one, as usual. And thank you to everybody tuning in. But of course, Unicorn, any closing messages before we wrap things up for the evening?
Yeah, well, Striff, as always, a pleasure to comment alongside you again. A little bit of a wacky one, akin to the Monaco race we had not too long ago, but again, still, drama filled. It gives us good stead for tomorrow, where drama should continue in real life on the track here in Hungary. But yeah, a massive shout out to everyone who watched along through all that. It all means the world, and everyone who signed up for season 5 signups have now closed. They closed somewhere around, I think, about lap 15 in the race, but we'll see who gets the seats there, and racing action will, of course, start up again in season 5. A lot to look forward to. A brilliant race tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been a little while, I think, until we're back. Like you said, a bit of a summer break in the real life Formula 1 means a break here in endurance. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Take it easy and good night.